Welcome to another reaction stream. We are looking ahead to Game Week 12 and we still have another day's worth of action in Game Week 11, but because of this quick turnaround between now and Game Week 12, we literally have another deadline on Tuesday. I'm going live here on this Saturday, and we also will be putting a best free hit team tomorrow and also the team selection hopefully on Monday, but I could also maybe do it on Sunday potentially. I'll wait and see there. I'm currently up to 357,000, so I've kind of halved my rank, but I expect that to change in the Liverpool versus City game, as well as the Arsenal-Leeds game, where players like Jesus and Saka could bury me, actually, and also De Bruyne. He's another one I'm kind of nervous of not owning, but look at the amount of points I have on my bench. So despite having 39 points and things going well so far for me, I've got Ward there with a clean sheet, 6 points, Andreas Pereira got an assist, 5 points, and Anderson got a clean sheet and a yellow card to get 5 points as well. And I've also got Trippier in there, so this could easily be a 20+ point bench. And I think someone actually talked about this yesterday in the deadline stream, saying, why don't you bench boost? Well, I kind of dismissed it and laughed at it, but he might have been right. He or she might have been right about that. So in the end, who's laughing? Not me, that's for sure. But welcome to everyone. I'm going to go through your questions in this kind of brief stream, and I'll also be doing the deadline stream on Tuesday, and then we'll see where we can go from there. But good to see so many of you in the chat already. Welcome, Alvin. Kev Mack as well. Tech XEO saying 22 from 5, absolutely horrid week. I mean, you still have at least 6 players left, including some big names tomorrow, so I would expect that to change. Thank you, Andy, and I appreciate it. Daniel Valentine says 57 points. That's ridiculous. Cancelo, Trippier, Salah still to play. Took Haaland out for Kane. Captain feeling smug for now. Yeah, that could easily change, of course, but 9-pointer from Kane, and I wasn't really too surprised. I thought he'd score in this game, and I was prepared going into this week to take a hit to get rid of Son and get Harry Kane, but things changed, and to be fair, that would have involved getting rid of Mitrovic or Tony, so I'm not really too bothered by that, but ultimately I would prefer Kane over Son if it was possible. Haaland scoring a brace tomorrow. I think he will score. It's just a matter of how many, but of course, you never know how it's going to go in football. He did blank, technically, in the Community Shield final. He missed so many chances. Let's see what happens this time round. Man, I had Dyer and Mitrovic benched. I do understand that. Normally I'd say, why are you benching Mitrovic? But because of all the doubts surrounding him, I thought he might start in Game Week 12 instead. I do get that, and to be fair, it was a penalty, you know, but apart from that, you know, he was getting on the end of some crosses and stuff, but he still wasn't fully sharp, I'd say. Huge day for me tomorrow. Bowen and KDB could be the huge difference for me. The Kane and Perisic points move me 36,000 places down. Yeah, I'm a bit frustrated because Perisic ended up getting 2 bonus points, so he's on 8, and I did go for Doherty in the end, but at least I did cover the Spurs clean sheet, which I was very confident of going into this game week, and Everton should have scored, but to be honest, they didn't have too many chances anyway. I last minute benched Ward and Pereira, but to be fair though, you know, Leicester are still one of the worst defences and teams in the league at the moment. And now, you know, looking back on the last 2 home games, you would be like, well, actually, maybe Leicester are a bit better defensively at home, but it's a very small sample size. And as for Pereira, I don't really blame you for that. And you can't really have everyone's points. Would you have benched Maddison or Zaha for Pereira? Well, I wouldn't have. So in the end, you can't regret the decision too much. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people benching Mitrovic, and look, to be honest, for me, it would have been Trippier or Pereira coming in for Mitrovic. So really, it's not a huge difference. I do expect Trippier to get something tomorrow, actually. 18 points from 5 players. Bad start, but still 6 players left, and things can change very quickly. Tomorrow, you could be in a much better position, and I could be in a much worse one, for example. A lot of guys are going to be crying when Haaland blanks tomorrow. I mean, I'm not sure about when. It's a possibility that he blanks, but I'd say the more likely scenario is that he haws. Either way, I don't mind too much because even when he gets a goal as my captain, I don't actually gain too much from it. His effective ownership is ridiculous, so I actually don't care too much, actually, yeah. I have 22 points on my bench and 18 points in my starting 11. Okay, yeah, that is definitely frustrating. Obviously, I have quite a lot of bench points as well, but it's not too bad because I haven't done too badly in my starting 11. I do feel your pain there. Having more points on your bench than your starting 11 really hurts. It's happened to me before, and hopefully it doesn't happen again to you, Andy, but that's FPL for you. Should I replace Maddison with Trossard? Honestly, it depends who you have or don't have, but he is the standout. If you want someone for a 1-week punt, Trossard has to be it. I think he is the best option, and actually, just a kind of spoiler alert, he has actually come into my team already. He has replaced Maddison, who, I haven't even mentioned it today so far, he is now suspended. He picked up a yellow card in the last minute of the game for simulation. It was a blatant dive, and it was completely unnecessary, and in the end, he is now suspended. He got that 5th yellow card. It's a good thing I waited in terms of recording the best free hit team video, because I had a feeling he might be suspended, so I wanted to wait. He was going to feature in the team, and I had obviously made a few kind of adjustments based on that information. 60 points with Haaland, Bowen and Cancelo to go. Really good score, of course, and you could definitely get into the 70-point mark, I'd say, yeah. Really good score. 22 from 5 players. I'm seeing kind of a mixture here. So some people with 50, 60 points already, with a lot of the players already have played, and then some people with maybe 15 to 22. Look, it's really early on, of course. I would ideally do this reaction stream after all the games are done, but we literally have another deadline on Tuesday, unfortunately. Yeah, I think Trossard is the way to go. No Arsenal players tomorrow. I'm so scared. I would be too. I think Arsenal will score 2 or 3, potentially, but you never know. And Leeds are pretty strong at home, and I don't think they've lost this season, so you just never know. Arsenal could drop points. They might even struggle FPL-wise. Played my free hit. Do you reckon it's a good idea? It's obviously a team-dependent question, but for most people, I would try to wait with a free hit and use it in a blank or double game week. What is going to be the Liverpool midfield option apart from Salah? Honestly, no one. It would have been Diaz, but of course he's injured. I'm really looking at Firmino, and you'll see it in tomorrow's best free hit team video, which is already available for members. He is the one I'm really targeting for Liverpool, but in terms of the midfield, there's no one really of note at the moment. If I was you, I would have captained Son over Haaland. Fair enough. I mean, this is the thing though, I'm not that confident in Son. He blanked once again, of course, and he hasn't shown enough throughout the whole season for me to captain him over someone who's scoring pretty much every single game. 27 points of Kane captain. Obviously a good captaincy haul there. And still, I'm not sure how many players you have to play there, Hadi, but still, it's not too bad. 27 points, I don't think is that bad. I've seen some people with worse, actually. Glad that I switched my captain from Son to Haaland last minute. Yeah, I mean, we all want to go different with the captaincy, but it's really risky. If it's Kane, you know, I would have been seriously considering. He's on penalties, of course. He's been scoring a few in the last few games. And Spurs get a lot of penalties in general. Yeah, apart from him, though, I just don't see anyone else I would captain over Haaland. It's just Kane and De Bruyne, really. Best James replacement. Kind of just like last week, I said Kilman a lot. He would be one of my best picks. Obviously, Totti at 3.9 million is looking intriguing. He got a few bonus points today. But I'd probably say Kilman, Anderson still. You know, 2 options I talked about long-term yesterday. I don't think I'd go for Doherty or Dyer or Perisic right now. But you never know what they can do against United. 36 with 5 to go. I think that's fairly good, Zane. Obviously, I'm in a similar position to you. I've got 4 players left with 39. I think that's a pretty good score. Free hit, isn't it bad? In Game Week 12, I wouldn't say it's bad. And you'll see the best free hit team tomorrow, and you can be the judge of it. But I would try to save it if you can. 44 points thanks to Sarr, 14-pointer, and Tony Brace. Yeah, sometimes it's just one or two of these players that really makes the difference for you. And Jose Sarr obviously saved a lot of our, clean sheets for Wolves players. And he also got in amongst the bonus points. And Jose Sarr is one of the best FPL goalkeepers, over the last year or so. 5 more to play tomorrow, but 16 points on my bench. It's kind of a similar week for a lot of us. It's just maybe some of us have Tony, some of us don't. And there's a few things that separate. It's just variance, and sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it doesn't. Doherty captain 12 points. Now fear Haaland. Yeah, I would too. Doherty, he had a few moments, but Perisic was the more intriguing of the 2 wing-backs. It is a bit of a shame, but, at least you got something from your captain. You got to look at the bright side. Son let me down. I captained him. That's the thing, I said this as well. He was in my top 5 captaincy options for this week, and I would love to say go for Son over De Bruyne, or should I say Haaland, but I just haven't seen enough. I know he scored twice against Frankfurt, and he scored a hat-trick a few weeks ago against Leicester, but that's just not enough. And in every other game, he has blanked for Spurs, and it's just not really it. Best captaincy for Game Week 12, I think Salah would be my top pick. Apart from him, I would mainly look at Trossard, Kane, Firmino. That is kind of my top 4. I talk about it in tomorrow's video too. That's my top 4. In terms of order, I think I'd still go for Salah first, arguably Trossard second, and Harry Kane third, and Firmino fourth. And to be fair, with the form that Firmino's in, you could arguably go for him over Salah, but that's my top 4. Question, how can you tell the bonus points before they're given? Literally, if you go and click on the results on the FPL website of any game that has happened, you will see the bonus points. And even during the game, you can do it. So I can show you an example right now. So yeah, if we go to Game Week 11 here, and the fixtures, so if we go to Spurs-Everton, click on the game, and then you'll see here the bonus point system. Kane will have 3 bonus points, Perisic 2, and Højbjerg just about got into the 1 bonus point with his goal to seal off the game against Everton. So that's how the bonus point system works. And yeah, you can easily find out during the game. You can keep tabs on it. I wouldn't recommend that because it is a bit of a torture, you could say, but that's how you find out the bonus points. Sometimes they do change though, but very rarely. Doherty played really well, could easily haul in the coming 4. My issue is I don't think he starts every single game, especially with Emerson Real returning in Game Week 13. Hey Dylan, my Kane and Kilman transfer paid off, but not Trossard. Trossard is mainly there for the Nottingham Forest fixture, but I thought he'd do well against Brentford. It wasn't meant to be, and I'm a bit concerned about Brighton, having a lot of possession, they don't really have that cutting edge up front, so I would be a bit concerned, but Trossard for me, against Nottingham Forest, is one of the best options to have. Is Konate a good James replacement? I don't think so, because Liverpool are awful defensively, and also Konate is a big doubt for this weekend, so that could also impact future game weeks. So honestly, I'd say no. Only have 5 starters, should I free hit? Look, with only 5 starters and, maybe you only have 1 free transfer, I would probably free hit. But for most people, especially if you have maybe, let's say, less than 4 Arsenal Man City players, I would highly recommend keeping the free hit for later on in the season. Yeah, I have Kilman as well. He was so close with the header. He was. And he's also good for bonus points. He was kind of 4th or 5th on the list for Wolves. So I think there are some points to come from him, assuming Wolves can keep the clean sheets, which is very important. Any plans to go with Liverpool attackers in Game Week 13? Firmino would be the one, maybe Salah. They're the 2 I'm mainly looking at, of course. And what I could do potentially is Son to Salah, which I think I have enough money anyway with the move I've just made with Trossard. But I have other plans, I'll have to be honest. I have other priorities, which really in Game Week 13 is getting Arsenal and City players. So at the moment, I am obviously open to it, but that is the priority, going for those 2 teams and their players. Best Martinelli or Jesus replacements for Game Week 12? Jesus, I'd say Firmino. Mitrovic is still a pretty good one, of course, but Firmino will be the main one. And in terms of Martinelli, I'd say Trossard. Plan on selling Maddison for Foden after Game Week 13. Do I hold Maddison for the blank next week or sell? Ideal replacement. Farhad, I would do, and this is what I'm doing myself, get Trossard in for Maddison, and then you could get rid of Trossard in Game Week 13 for Foden. In my situation, it's a bit different, and I'm able to do that because I have 2 free transfers, or at least I had it. So if you actually look at my team now, just so you lot can see, and I'll talk about this in the team selection video, I have brought in Trossard for Maddison, and I still have 1 free transfer. I may get rid of Doherty as planned for Lewis Dunk. That is something I'm yet to, kind of clarify. And then if we go to FPL.team, actually, I don't even have FPL.team ready. So let me bring up FPL.team here, and I will show you what I'm looking to do as well, potentially. So Game Week 12. So this is how my team looks like in Game Week 12. You obviously saw that. Now in Game Week 13, the plan would be Ben White coming in for Doherty or Dunk, depending on if I do that transfer, and then I'll get Foden in or Trossard, and I would be able to keep Zaha, who, to be fair, hasn't been that impressive recently, and I'm having second doubts about him. Maybe he is an FPL troll, as some people did warn us. But yeah, that is kind of my plan at the moment. And if I hold off my second transfer in Game Week 12 and I decide to just stick with Doherty, then I'll have 2 free transfers in Game Week 13, and I can get an Arsenal defender like Ben White or Saliba, and also Phil Foden or Saka in Game Week 13. Let me know your thoughts on these transfer plans, but this is something I talked about even before the transfer of Trossard today, and obviously that was a direct consequence of Maddison being suspended. Are Wolves trustworthy? No. I like their defence. Jose Sa is one of the best goalkeepers. I've always said this, even when they had some bad fixtures, and also Kilman, Totti as well, potentially, but I wouldn't go for their midfielders or attackers, definitely not. Thank you, Islam, I appreciate it. 2 free transfers, KDB to Salah and Maddison to Trossard. Yes, I would do that, definitely. I think that's a really good set of transfers. Dylan Mayer asks, I need to replace Maddison and Jesus for Game Week 12. 2 free transfers and 0.9 million. I would go for Trossard and Firmino personally, but Nunez isn't a bad pick, mate. But honestly, it's completely up to you, but I would go for Firmino instead. Bowen and Wilson is also fine. Kane and Billing, I mean, especially Kane, he's a great choice, but honestly, I would go for Trossard and Firmino. Thoughts on Jesus in for Mitrovic, Tony in Game Week 13? Yeah, I think that's fine. I do prefer Saka though, and I talked about this at the beginning of the season, and Saka did start pretty poorly, and Jesus was the far better option for the first few game weeks, but I think Saka will get more points this season as the midfielder as well on penalties, and that is now slowly starting to come to fruition. Of course, I think it will be neck and neck, but Saka is such a great option. However, having said that, that's fine. I'd probably be more inclined to sell Tony, but Fulham's fixtures will slowly start to turn for the worse. Trossard fixtures trustworthy? No, it's just kind of a 1 week punt. So if you need someone for 1 week, I would go for Trossard, and I think that's a very simple transfer. I wouldn't go for Trossard if you want someone long term. If anything, you could go for Bowen instead, maybe even Mason Mount to get in early. But I think I'd go for Trossard if you can, and then save that slot, move Trossard onto Saka or Foden in Game Week 13. That's my plan anyway. Thank you, Bader. I appreciate it. I'm concerned with Trossard's fixtures in 13-14, completely understandable. I think Brighton will do well in Game Week 12, but in those fixtures you said against City and Chelsea, I'm actually very concerned, and I don't see many goals for Brighton, and I could see them conceding quite a few, especially to City. So I do understand that, but if you want 1 week punt, I think Trossard is the one. But definitely, in 13-14, I don't want these Brighton players. Who is the best replacement for Maddison? For a 1 week punt, I think Trossard. Longer term, kind of excluding the fact that they blank in 12, it's Foden and Saka. But of course, it's kind of difficult. You want maybe someone who plays in 12 and is also long term. And in that case, you could consider someone like Bowen. But honestly, I'd rather go for Trossard for the short term, very short term, and then one of Saka or Foden. Zaha, keep or sell? I mean, with the blanks and stuff in mind, he is a keep for now. And also, some alternatives like Maddison is suspended, so I just keep for now. But he is probably a sell in a few weeks' time, and I am looking at it. And if it wasn't for Maddison being suspended, it would have been Zaha, I think, making way for Saka or Foden in 13 for me. Will Salah be rested in the next 3 games? That is a good question, and the Champions League is very important. Liverpool still have a chance of qualifying in second position. So there is a chance that Salah is rested in one of the games. I mean, he was benched the other day against Rangers. I think that was more so as a kick up the arse, so to speak, to get him, motivated and firing, and it did work. Just like Conte with Son a few weeks ago. It is possible, I will admit that. There might be a benching, I'm not sure where it will come from. I think he'll play in the Champions League, so really you're looking at Game Weeks 12 or 13. And obviously you have the City game, he's not going to be benched for that. So is he going to be benched against West Ham? It's possibly, but I think he'll start. That's my opinion. Yeah, Trossard will go up in price tonight. Thank you for the segue. If we now check FPL statistics, that is the website. I would highly recommend it. It's the most accurate I found in terms of predicting price rises. Of course, sometimes things are completely unexplainable and inexplicable from FPL headquarters, but Trossard is predicted to go up. He was my transfer in this week for Maddison, and I may still make one more transfer. And I'll put a poll out maybe very soon just to get your thoughts, but I'm going to wait and see how the week progresses, and then I will make a decision on whether to get a Brighton defender in, just as a 1 week punt, really. And in terms of players going down, well, okay, I don't know what this is. Rothwell is at 100% there. Don't think anyone cares about that. But Maddison is the one to keep an eye on. He will go down very soon. Maybe not today. I think that's too soon. But I think before the deadline, Maddison will go down in price. So be aware of that. And normally I do urge caution when it comes to early transfers, but we do have a deadline on Saturday. And in Tuesday. So in that case, I would probably make the free transfer quite early on, especially if you have 2 and you have a bit of flexibility going around. So it's not a bad time basically to make early transfers. Although, if possible, still hold out if you can. Maybe I should have, and I might regret it in the end. So if we now go to this, just to kind of show you, my second free transfer potentially could be Lewis Duncan. And I'm not sure about this. It's kind of switching between these defenders a bit too much. I got Doherty in just now, and then I get rid of him for Dunk, playing the fixture. And then next week I could still get Foden or Saka in for Trossard. So I'm not too sure about this. It does seem a bit too tinkery, so to speak. So I don't think I'm going to do it at the moment, but things can definitely change, and I'll talk about it in the team selection video. Who's going down in price? We literally just covered it, so I think players like Matip, no one of note really, but expect Maddison to go down in price in the next few days, probably by Monday. 29 points with 6 to play, I think that's a good score personally. You've got over half your team left to play, decent score, all things considered. I think that's good. Should I start Nico Williams and bench Maddison and roll, then sell him and Zaha to get Saka and Foden for free? I'd say so, Coop. But if you don't have Trossard, I am not against getting him in for 1 week, and then you can move him on as well, even if it delays the Saka or Foden transfer by 1 week. So if you already have Trossard, I would do what you just said and roll and play Nico Williams. But if you don't, I would probably just go for Trossard and save Saka maybe for Game Week 13 or 14. Although you could arguably go for Saka or Foden instead. Who's my captain in Game Week 12? At the moment, it is Trossard. I'm not saying I'm definitely going to go for it. You can see it on screen as well, by the way. The other ones I'm considering for the captaincy really is Son and Mitrovic. And to be honest, it's slim pickings. I think Salah is the best one. And really, you know, if I really wanted to play the captaincy game, I would do Son up to Salah, or I could even do Tony to Firmino, but I'm not too convinced about that. And honestly, my priority in Game Week 13 onwards is to get these Arsenal City players in. I think I'll gain more points from doing that than getting maybe one or two of these Liverpool players or someone else of that ilk to focus on Game Week 12, which probably will be a low-scoring week anyway. So that's kind of my sense on it, my 2 cents on it. I think Trossard as a captain isn't a bad shout. I am a bit concerned, though, based on what I've seen in the last 2 games for Brighton. I saw both of them in full, and I'm not too convinced based on recent performances, but I know what Trossard's capable of, and I think he is the best Brighton asset that they have. Sell De Bruyne or Maddison this week? I'd honestly rather sell Maddison. Obviously, with De Bruyne, you might have more money at your disposal. You can go to Son or Salah. And if that's the case, you know, and you can go to Salah, then sell De Bruyne. But long term, I'd rather have De Bruyne, definitely. Best replacements for Maddison. For me, for 1 week, if you need someone for Game Week 12, Trossard is the guy. Longer term, it's a bit different, and I'd say Saka and Foden. Of course, you might want someone who plays in 12 long term, like I said earlier. And in that case, I would consider someone like Bowen or Zaha still. But it's kind of slim pickings at the moment, in my opinion, because Maddison was one of my favourite midfielders. Mitrovic doesn't even seem to be fully fit. Do you think he plays 90? Good question. I don't think he plays the 90 on Tuesday. He didn't look fully sharp in the game against Bournemouth, and really, he only got the returns because of the penalty. Like I said, Javier, if money isn't an issue, I would sell Maddison instead. I'd rather have De Bruyne long term. Kane to Wilson and Maddison to Salah captain. Not a bad shout. I'm a bit concerned about selling Kane long term, and I do prefer Kane. I think Kane is the better option right now compared to Salah. So in Game Week 12, I think you'll benefit, but will you benefit in the long term? I don't think so, actually. I'd probably keep Kane if you can. Patterson to Webster from -4. Would I take a hit involving a defender? Probably not. And I think Patterson is in training. You know, he is an important player for Everton. Webster has a good chance of a clean sheet, but then remember, he plays City and Chelsea in 13 and 14. So I wouldn't do it for a -4, and I'd probably keep Kane if you can. Isak, is he alive? I think he should be back fairly soon, actually, but still, I'm not a huge fan of him. He did look good in his first few game weeks, but Wilson is my preference, I have to say. Ain't Nuri worth considering? He's kind of too in and out of the team for me to really consider him. I'd rather go for Kilman or even Totti at the moment. Captain Kane or Trossard? I think I'd favour Trossard at the moment. Ask me maybe in a day or two's time, but I'd say Trossard at the moment because of the fixture, really. Kane obviously is the much more reliable pick. Why are people transferring in Foden? That is a good question. Like I said, he is the best long-term midfielder to replace Maddison especially. Sorry, but I do agree. Why would you transfer him in now when he blanks in 12? You know, it doesn't make any sense. The same goes for Saka. I would get them in, but in Game Week 13. Already have Bowen long-term replacement for Maddison. Once again, you know, really, you're looking at long-term, I would probably say Zaha, and I'm not that convinced by him either. So it's slim pickings. Really, the answer I want to give you is Foden or Saka, but you know that they blank, so it's a tricky one. Should I sell James? Actually, news has come out, I think an hour or two ago by David Ornstein, and he reported that he doesn't require surgery, which is good news, and maybe he'll be available just before the 2 months kind of breakdown that he was given. But he's still not expected to really feature before the World Cup. So yes, I would sell James. I still think he's going to be out for the next few game weeks, but it's not as bad as initially feared. Saka or Jesus for the good run? I personally would go for Saka. He's on penalties. He's a midfielder. Scores, obviously, he gets more points for the clean sheet and also scoring a goal. Kilman or Webster to White in the future? I would rather do Webster to White because of the fixtures. And Kilman, I mean, his fixtures aren't that great, but they're better than Brighton's. Maddison versus Trossard until Game Week 16. Good question. I mean, Trossard has some difficult fixtures, but at least he has a game in all of these, you know, fixtures and game weeks. Maddison obviously misses out in 12, which is a big shame. I'd probably say Trossard. Patterson to Gay for a hit. I wouldn't take a hit for a Palace defender. Maddison to Trossard, KDB to Salah, and James to Castagna next week. It looks really good to me, honestly. I think it's a great set of transfers. I would do it, even for a hit, and I'm not a big fan of Leicester defensively. James to Anderson or Gomez? I'd rather go to Anderson. Joe Gomez, yes, he'll play as the right back for now, but Trent should be back in a few weeks, so that's kind of a short-term solution. Who would be the #1 defence pick? Well, apart from Cancelo and Trippier, I would probably say Kilman is right up there. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't like these options too much, and I'm struggling to have a a concrete answer for you. Long term for me, it's an Arsenal defender, and I'd say Ben White. Apart from that, you're looking at maybe Eric Dyer as a long-term solution and Kilman. So it boils down to those options, really. Would you do Trossard to Foden and Zaha to Saka in 13, or the above two and Doherty to White Saliba for a -4 in 13? I wouldn't do Doherty to an Arsenal defender for a hit. I wouldn't do that, even though I would have doubts about Doherty starting in Game Week 13. Would I do Trossard to Foden and Zaha to Saka in 13? Yes, I would. But would I take a hit for a defender? No. Worth captaining Trossard ahead of Salah? I think it is worth it. If you look at the fixture, Nottingham Forest is much more appealing, but I would still have more confidence in Salah, I think. Yeah, Trossard will be a differential enough. I think he will be more popular than any other week, of course, because of the blank, but he will still be a differential captaincy, I believe. How to fit in options like Saka, Mount, Foden. I'm owning Son, Martinelli, Bowen, Andreas Zaha. How to fit them in? Really, it would be selling Bowen and Zaha, and I wouldn't be that adverse to it, especially Zaha, who hasn't been doing it recently. Thoughts on the free hit for Game Week 12? You will see the best free hit team video tomorrow. The team is good, but I will be honest, I think there will be better free hit squads in the future if you save it for a blank or double. Best Maddison replacement for Game Week 12? Trossard. It has to be him. If you already have him, that's fair enough. Then I would probably say, if you can stretch to it, by the way, I would maybe go to someone like Sterling or Son. But obviously, that's going to be quite unlikely. If you have the money, that would be ideal. But I have to say Trossard would be my main pick. Trippier captain in Game Week 12? No. For me, the captaincy options for Game Week 12 would be Salah, Harry Kane, Trossard, and you could even consider Heung-min Son, but it's mainly those top three that I said. Skamaka, yay or nay? I mean, I think he's a good option, especially to replace Mitrovic, for example, but would I sell Mitrovic for him? No. Would I sell Tony despite facing Chelsea? I probably wouldn't. So it just depends on your team. If you need a strike and you don't have those two already or something like that, then yes, I think he's a good choice. And against Liverpool, I could see a return there, just not a high ceiling. Replacements for James, like I said earlier, slim pickings, but I would say an Arsenal defender long term. And if you were to buy someone now, it would be Kilman. And I said this, heading into this game week as well. I think Mount is the same like Son situation, good but not enough. To be honest, I completely agree. Best 1 week punt for 12, Trossard. For me, it's probably Trossard. Looking at the fixture and what he's done this season, I think he's the clear winner. Best replacement for Maddison. For 1 game week, Trossard. Long term is Saka or Foden. If you want someone, who kind of fits both worlds, plays in 12, long term option, then I would probably say Bowen or Zaha. Is Trossard on penalties? No, it's McAllister who's on penalties. Looking to get Addison out. Who's the best to replace him long term? At this point in time, obviously Jose Sol got a huge return today. He would be right up there in the list. It would be him or Gaeta. And to be honest, Raya, a 10-pointer this week, 0 last week. So I would expect inconsistency from him and Brentford. But those are the top 3, I think, at the moment. And I don't think there's a great standout goalkeeper. I like Pope, but the fixtures aren't really there. Not sure if you've already answered this. Would you take a -4 to do Maddison and Martinelli to Trossard and Mount? I haven't answered it. And to be honest, I would take the hit, yes. Trossard, I think, is worth it, but Mount is the one I'm a bit unsure on, so I definitely would get Trossard. The hit is good overall, and I think it will be worth it anyway, but I'm a bit concerned about Mount, I'll be honest. Yeah, Barnes, but the thing is, what has he done this season? I like Barnes, as an option before. He has proven what he's capable of. He definitely has the potential, but not this season so far. What do you think about Game Week 12? KDB to Maddison. KDB Maddison to Salah, captain, and Trossard -4. I would do it. Even for a hit, I think that looks great, Dan. Can you explain why Maddison's selling price 8.1 and his price is buying 8.3? This has always been the case in FPL. So when you buy a player, so Maddison started the season at 8 million. When he goes up in price to 8.1, you can't sell him for 8.1 million. The selling price only goes up by 0.1 million. So in essence, he'll go up to 8.1 million if his overall price goes up to 8.2. So for every time a player goes up by 0.2 million in price, his selling price will increase by 0.1 million. Hopefully you understood that. It does sound confusing, but I think that is all good. I'm new here, probably going to be online here. So, sorry, I can't even read. I'm new here. Props to you being online so early after the game's dropped. A sub, especially answering all my questions. Thank you, Amit. I'll be honest, I normally would like to wait for all the games, so looking for tomorrow, but there's such a quick turnaround. But I appreciate your kind words. Tempted to go Mount as Maddison replacement. to be honest, he has looked good under Graham Potter. He had that huge return against Wolves. Apart from that, we haven't seen too much from him, but I think he could be early onto something pretty good. Mason Mount's fixtures are pretty mixed, you could say, but from an offensive point of view, I would favour Chelsea to score quite a few goals in these games. They have looked much better in recent weeks, so that's not a bad shout. He could be the pick, actually, if you're looking for a long-term solution, but maybe this is one of my downfalls as a manager. I like to see something from a player first, on a consistent basis. Maybe at least see 2 good performances on the bounce before going for them. It doesn't have to be points, by the way. And I know he has played well in the last few games, but from an FPL perspective, there's only one match where he really delivered this season. Our Salah captainers are going to feast in Game Week 12? Possibly. I mean, I don't think it's a guarantee. West Ham are a good team, but Salah would be my top pick for the captaincy for sure. Thank you, Average Afi. I appreciate your kind words as well. Thank you, Atoshish, as well. I appreciate it, and hope to see you here again soon. Bowen or Mount for Maddison? At the moment, I would pick Bowen. Just bear in mind, the next game obviously is away to Liverpool, and most of his returns are at the London Stadium at home. Who do you think the best captain is for this week? I think it's Salah. Then I would probably say Trossard, then Kane. That's my top 3. Let me know if you disagree, and I would not rule out Firmino as a captain. I think he's a great choice. Sterling worth a -4 for a 1-week punt. Probably want Foden after. I think it is worth it, especially if you get rid of Maddison or someone who doesn't play. But would I take a -4 personally? No. But it is worth it, I think. Or it could be, should I say. Will Jesus start tomorrow? There's actually a picture released a few hours ago which showed that he travelled with the squad. I think he starts. -8 with 10 players or free hit. I don't think you need to take hits to get to 10 or 11. I would actually just take a -4, potentially to get to 9, and that's it, and leave it. I think you should be fine and cover most of the points, unless you're missing most of the big players like Trossard, Kane, Salah, Firmino. I don't think a free hit is worth it, in my opinion, in your situation, but I don't know your team. Maddison to Son or Salah or someone else? For Game Week 12, I definitely prefer Salah, but in the long term, because of the fixtures, I think I'd still say Salah over Son, but it's really close. Really, really close. Captain Kane or Trossard? At the moment, I have to say this, I have to basically clarify this. At the moment, I would say Trossard because of the fixture. You reckon Emerson starts against Liverpool in midweek? That is a really good question. I think so. I think West Ham will play a back 3. Obviously, fans like Tech will probably correct me there, but I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham play a back 3, Cresswell as the left centre-back, and Emerson left wing-back. It's definitely possible. Firmino nailed. He's not going to start every single game, especially with the Champions League, 3 games in 6 days, as pointed out by some viewers earlier, but he will play or start the majority of games, and he is Liverpool's best player right now. I see him starting against City and also against West Ham, so maybe the rest will come in Game Week 14, for example. Is Anthony a decent pick? Yes, he is. And I talked about him in the recent transfer tips video. The reason why I said he's a skip is because you had so many alternatives until the Maddison suspension, of course, but you still got Zaha, Bowen, Mason Mount could become a serious option. And then more importantly, you're looking at Saka and Foden long term. I think they're 2 of the best options. And you have a few others around that price. But he is a good option, yes. I have Bowen, Zaha and Maddison and need to replace Maddison, but not much interested in Trossard. Look, I completely get it. I only went for Trossard because I had 2 free transfers and I could afford to take a 1-week punt basically on him. And my plan was always to get rid of one of my midfielders for Foden or Saka. So I do understand if you aren't really too keen. Is it possible that Trossard goes up 0.2 million before Game Week 12? Another good question. I think so. Especially with Maddison being suspended, I think everyone's going to make that move over the next few days. He definitely will go up by, at least once. There's no doubt about it. In terms of 0.2 million, it's possible. And I think he will, if I had to say yes or no. Would you take a -8 hit to get out James, Maddison, Jesus and put in Salah, Kane and Anderson? I'm not a big fan of -8s, but you're literally getting rid of 3 players who don't play, and you're bringing in 2 of the best captaincy options and a decent defender. Yes, I would take the -8, although if you already have someone like Nico Williams or someone else like that, I would play them and save the -4 hit for Anderson and just get him in, a few weeks later. Thank you, Khalid. Are we ignoring Man United assets? The thing is, though, is there really a standout? Anthony has been good in recent games. Dallo is a decent choice at 4.5 million, but is there anyone else? Ronaldo? He's going to be sharing minutes with Rashford and also Martial, who is also, I think, back in contention. So are we ignoring Man United assets? Yes, but I think there's a good reason for it. Jesus in doubt to start tomorrow. There is a bit of a doubt, but I believe he will start. He was pictured in the squad. There was a picture a few hours ago, and he has travelled to Leeds. KDB to Salah, Haaland to Firmino, and Wildcard in the following week. Honestly, I would do it. Just bear in mind, you will lose a bit of value, especially with Haaland, but I think it's worth it. The points could definitely make up for the lost value. I got 48 points, which will put me in the top 50k. That's a really good score, to be honest. 48 points at this stage. Obviously, you might have 2 or 3 players playing tomorrow, but that's still a really good score. Salah in for Maddison. Have to drop Bowen to Almiron, Andreas or March. I would go to Almiron out of those 3. He's my favourite at the moment, yeah. The moment I saw Perisic starting, I knew Son would blank. Yes, this is the thing. Let's actually break it down. So Son has hauled in 2 games for Spurs this season. Let me know, by the way, what you think of this kind of thing. Okay, I'm not claiming to be a genius or anything. So against Frankfurt, he scored twice. Perisic didn't start. And also against Leicester, Perisic came off and Son came on. So both times that he has hauled for Spurs this season, Perisic wasn't on the pitch. And before the switch to 3-5-2, they were literally occupying the exact same positions on the left-hand side. And it just doesn't really work at the moment. I think it will build over time. But at the moment, I just don't think they coexist really well in the same team. And to be fair, look, Son actually had a decent performance. He just didn't get the goals or assists. But in terms of an FPL perspective, Perisic starting isn't good for Son, and I agree there, Singh. Is Soufal still out for West Ham? I believe so. And to be honest, I don't think he's first choice at the moment anyway. I think Carrere is the first choice there. And you also have Ben Johnson to come back as well. Best replacement for Maddison and James already have Trossard plus Zaha and Perisic and Trippier. In that case, I would probably consider someone like Mason Mount or Bowen for James Maddison. And for Reece James, I would go for Kilman or Anderson. I'm going to Wildcard in 13. For Game Week 12, should I take out James for a hit or field only 10? Really, I'm trying to make a case for taking a hit for a defender who has a lot of potential, who could easily make up, the hit that you're taking. But I honestly would just roll with 10, personally. I would do it if I was in your situation, but it's completely up to you. Nico hasn't done anything. I think it's time to get rid. I had him since the start. I mean, he's just a 4 million defender anyway. And I said this before, he can get the occasional return for you, but Nottingham Forest aren't good enough defensively. Welcome, Calvin. Should I start with 10 players in 12 or use the free hit chip? Just start with 12, especially if you have most of the key options covered. There's no need to play the free hit, in my opinion. Mitrovic or Tony? I'd still go for Mitrovic. They're both great, by the way, and I'm happy to have both. But I would rather have Mitrovic. I'm just a bit concerned if he's fully fit or not. And like Singh, I think, said earlier, will he play the full 90 in Game Week 12? Maybe not, but I still think he's the better option over the next 5 or so. Thank you, Suarez. I appreciate it. Is Rashford the best FPL option from United? I think he's still in the top 3. Is he the best? That's a tricky one. I'd say yes. I think he still is. But as has been proven since the Arsenal game, and I talked about this after he hauled against us, my concern with him is, will he haul against the low blocks? And so far, he hasn't done it. He's only hauled against Arsenal and Liverpool, really, who played such a high line, and he completely took advantage. But I still think he's the best option. He's got the highest ceiling, and I also think, he's so cheap, to be honest. He's 6.6 million or something like that. The other ones I would consider is Anthony and Dalot. I wouldn't go for Martial. I would love to say Martial, but too injury prone. Ronaldo is too expensive, and I don't think he starts, really, despite his haul recently. Edison to Gaeta for -4. Honestly, I would not take hits for goalkeepers. I know you're getting rid of someone who doesn't play for Gaeta, but if you have Ward, just start him. Honestly, I wouldn't do it. The Awake Hits is a Chrome extension. I'll try to get it up on in the live chat, by the way. And thank you to everyone watching. We almost have 300 people. If you haven't already, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes. I think we can do that. And we also are looking to get to 16,000 subscribers. We are just under 200 away from that milestone. So it'd be greatly appreciated if we can reach it. Today would be amazing. But if not, over the next few weeks or so, I think it's definitely possible. Definitely by the end of the year, we're looking to maybe perhaps reach 17,000 and then push ahead to 20,000. But thank you for the growth recently. It's been great. And you can also check the links in the description below for the Twitter and Instagram, Dylan RCM, also the Discord server and the FPL League, the Patreon, the channel memberships. All of that is there. So the links are in the description below. And I'll also keep going through your questions. Zaha isn't paying off. I do agree. He's only got 1 return for me so far. And that was the assist for Eze last week. He just hasn't really looked involved, which is not what you want to hear. And he is Crystal Palace's talisman. So for him not to really be involved is very concerning. Would you sell Williams or leave it as he's the permanent third bench? I would sell him if you can, but would I take a hit to go from Williams to, I don't know, let's say Kilman? No. Dylan, wildcard team for Game Week 12, please. I don't think I'm going to make a wildcard team video since I made one literally just the other day, and I'm not a big fan of wildcarding in 12 because you're not going to go for Arsenal and City players really, and you want to get them long term. So I'm going to show you a team now for those of you that are really insistent on playing the wildcard. So if I were to play the ship this week, I would potentially consider something like this. Now, I wouldn't say Sarr is the absolute favourite goalkeeper. He has a high ceiling, of course, and look, he's not going to haul and get 11 points every single week. And the fixtures are quite mixed. You know, Crystal Palace and Leicester, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a clean sheet there. But then you look at the games afterwards, I mean, it's kind of a tricky one. Basically, over, let's say, up until the World Cup, I could see 2 or 3 clean sheets for Jose Sarr, potentially. I think it's possible. I think 2 is a realistic kind of bet. So yeah, he could be the goalkeeper to choose, and he also is a bit of a downgrade on Pope, so you save a little bit of money there. Ward would be my second goalkeeper. In terms of the defence, Cancelo and Trippier speak for themselves. I would also go for Anderson. For Game Week 12, I would go for maybe Lewis Dunk, and you can always get rid of him in Game Week 13 or 14, but you are booking in transfer, so bear that in mind. Would I double up on Wolves' defence? I'm not a big fan, but it's not the worst idea in the world. By the way, if you have any suggestions as we go along, then be sure to let me know. But I don't think I'd go for Son at the moment. I can't bring myself to do that. So what would I do here? Martinelli, Trossard, Zaha, Andreas. So yeah, for those of you that have a lot of value tied up in the likes of Cancelo, Martinelli and Haaland, I would keep them and just bench them and focus on your starting 11. The strikers I would go for would be Mitrovic and Tony, I think. Yeah, that sounds just about right. However, I would also heavily consider Roberto Firmino, and actually, I think I'd go for him over Ivan Toney. If you disagree, be sure to let me know. Just try not to cost me too much. In terms of the midfield, I think I would go for Jared Bowen as this 5th midfielder. Andreas, Zaha, Trossard, Martinelli looks fine enough, but ultimately what you want to do with this squad, with this wildcard team, is do Lewis Dunk to Ben White. So that's what you want to do. Obviously, if you are wildcarding, do not get 4, 5, 6 Arsenal City players. That makes no sense. But for Game Week 13, you want to start planning something like this. So Ben White in for Lewis Dunk. We also have a lot of money in the bank, as you can see there. Then you can do Trossard up to Kevin De Bruyne, potentially. He is my favourite premium midfielder. So I'd go for something like this. And let's see how much money we have left in the bank. We have 0.5 million. To be honest, a lot of you will probably just say, well, what about Saka and Foden? And that's completely fair enough. So, if you don't want to go for De Bruyne, we can just go for Foden and Saka. And this is what you really want to start targeting in Game Weeks 13 and 14. So hopefully that's all clear for you. Obviously, I don't have any graphics prepared to kind of show a transition of what you do in 12 and then 13, etc. But this will look really good, basically, going into 13 and 14. And ultimately, you can upgrade one of Firmino or Mitrovic to Kane if you wish. But I would wildcard to something like this in 12, basically. Obviously, with Dunk in for White and a few other one-week punts like Trossard in for Bukayo Saka and Foden, etc. But that's kind of the team you want to build from 13 to 16 on the wildcard. Haaland to Kane. For 1 week, yes, but ultimately you want to get Haaland back in. Honestly, I would try to have him, as soon as possible. Do not miss any weeks, without Haaland. What do you think of Firmino in? I think he's a great transfer. He's my favourite Liverpool asset at the moment, and I never have said this in my lifetime, by the way. So it's a first, there's a first time for everything, and, this year, it's the year of Firmino, it looks like. Captain Mitrovic in Blank Gameweek 12, I think it's a decent choice. Villa haven't been great this season, although in recent games they have shored things up defensively. A very kind of pragmatic approach. I wouldn't captain Mitrovic though. Just catching up, Maddison for Trossard seems obvious. Yeah, that's the move I've done this week already. Trossard is actually due to go up in price today. So yeah, Trossard is in, and he's my current captain. I'm a bit maybe, I wouldn't say anxious, but a bit concerned about not having Salah, Roberto Firmino, and Harry Kane. But apart from that, I'm happy with the rest of my squad, and I cover most of the kind of key teams and players. I got Kilman in for James, yep. And I said this last week as well. Kilman isn't going to blow you away. He's not an amazing option, but he can be slow and steady. And he got the clean sheet against Forest as I expected. But let's see how he does over the next 3 to 5 game weeks until the World Cup. -4 and 13 to get an Arsenal defender, not in my opinion. If you have someone like Andreas to come on or even Nico Williams, I would just stick with that because it's not a guarantee that Arsenal keep a clean sheet away to Southampton. Keep some for Blank Gameweek 12. I mean, I'll be honest. Ideally, I would go to Kane, and long term, De Bruyne, Foden, Saka. I'm not really impressed with Son this season, and I'm a bit concerned with his relationship with Perisic on the pitch. But I would keep him for Blank Gameweek 12. Will Kepa be starting regularly at Chelsea? Based on what we've seen so far, yes. And, at 4.4 million, you can't go wrong, really, for a Chelsea goalkeeper. Is Antony a better option than Rashford? Well, over the last 2 game weeks, he has obviously got the returns. I still prefer Rashford, but it's very, very close between the two. And Antony has been far better than I expected. Our defence is a bit of a mess with recent news that both Zuma, Carrere are doubts and Dawson Ogbonna received knocks midweek. Wouldn't be surprised to see Emerson, Cresswell, Rice, Johnson, Soufal. Really good shout, Tech, and that's a few injuries and, kind of problems that I, just forgot about there, like Ogbonna, Dawson, etc. Yeah, I mean, you would expect Liverpool, if these players are still doubts for Game Week 12, you would expect Liverpool to have a good chance of scoring 2 or 3. And to be honest, even though West Ham are pretty solid and Liverpool have been struggling this season, I think Liverpool will score goals in that game, but it could be a tight affair overall because I can also see West Ham scoring on the counter-attack. Have Salah for 12. Honestly, I'm a bit envious in a way. I would captain him if I had him, for sure. Best Spurs defender. Long-term is Dyer. I'm not sure if Perisic starts in Game Weeks 12, 13 and 14, for example, but I know Dyer will. Bowen or Mount, if both fit. Bowen, in my opinion. But Mount isn't bad. I think he will slowly become a better option over time, once again. Worth holding Salah from 13 to 16. I want to see how he performs tomorrow against City first, but yes, it is worth holding on to him because, another kind of premium option in Son isn't really delivering consistently. De Bruyne, for me, is the best premium midfielder, but I would probably keep Salah, from 13 to 16, but things change. If Salah stinks it up against City and he also plays poorly in 13, you probably want to sell in 14, so things change, but I would keep him at the moment. Almiron and Murphy as a Maddison replacement. Look, yeah, I know Murphy scored the other day, but I wouldn't bring him in as a Maddison replacement. Almiron, I think he's a good choice. I think he can get consistent attack and returns. Once again, something I never expected to say this season. Ideally, though, I would look to Bowen, Foden, Saka long-term, and a few others like Trossard in Game Week 12, rather than Almiron and Murphy, but still a good transfer. Yeah, to be honest though, as you just said, you bring in Foden. That's completely fine for me, Ashmit. But if you don't have Trossard, I would go for him over Almiron. Worth holding on to Sanchez goalkeeper. Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't sell him when he's got Nottingham Forest at home. I would keep him. Do you think Perisic will play 12? Good question. I mean, this is the thing. Perisic is obviously kind of a big game player. He's got a lot of experience. Why would you bench him against United? It's still possible. My gut feeling is that he starts, but I don't think he starts in Game Week 13. I think he misses out in one of the next 2, and my gut feeling right now is that he starts against United. How long is Bowen good for? That is a good question. So if we look at Bowen's fixtures, how long is he good for? To be honest, I mean, apart from Liverpool, United and Arsenal, and I could still see returns against 1 or 2 of those teams, he's good up until Game Week 21 based on the fixtures, and Bowen is now slowly coming into form. That's 21 points in his last 2 games. So I'd say up until Game Week 21 at the moment, but I do prefer a few other midfielders like Foden and Saka. They are my 2 favourites around that price, and when Maddison is back, he's also someone else I prefer over Bowen, but to be honest, Bowen is in that conversation once again. Let's see what else we have. Is Trossard the best 1-week punt for Game Week 12? On paper, I believe so. Any long-term picks as a replacement of Maddison other than Trossard, nor City Arsenal players? I'd say Jared Bowen for me, mate. Who should I replace Gabriel or Saliba for long-term centre-back or next couple of weeks? I'd say Kilman or Anderson. Best captain for 12, I think is Salah. Apart from him, I would probably say Trossard and Firmino. And obviously Kane is always in the discussion. March was at times the main attacker on back post against Brentford. Yeah, and he almost scored. He probably should have. He forced a really good save from Raya. I still think Trossard's the guy. That game against Liverpool was amazing. And not only that, even with Potter, he was performing to a pretty good level, especially towards the end of his tenure. Fantastic against Leicester as well. Yeah, I think Trossard is still the guy, in my opinion. But that's a good shout that you just put there. Everyone talking about FPL. How are you doing, mate? Thank you. Sorry, I appreciate it. I'm doing well. What about you? Darwin or Jota? Darwin would be my preference. Jota obviously got a hat-trick of assists the other day, but for me, it's Firmino, Salah, then Darwin Nunez in terms of ranking them. Missing 6 players for Game Week 12 with Maddison ban. Worth a free hit to keep Saka and KDB. Look, I do recognise that everyone's situation is different, and I think a free hit could benefit you there in that case. That's too many free transfers to kind of build a respectable number of players. I wouldn't be that adverse to having 8 or 9 this week. I don't think it's the end of the world. However, if you've only got one free transfer, then I could see, you know, a use of the free hit, especially if you don't have Kane, Salah, Firmino, etc. Your thoughts on Mitrovic captain in 12? Decent choice. That's how I'd rank it, you know, but there's better options. I would rather go for Trossard as a kind of differential outside the top 6. Obviously, Harry Kane, Son would be more reliable pick, so to speak. Not to mention Salah and Firmino, who are right up there. So he is good, but there's better options. Maddison yellow kills my game week 12 already. It is frustrating. It could be a blessing in disguise for some of us, though, you know, because if it wasn't for the Maddison yellow, I would not get in Trossard, which was what I wanted to do a week or two ago before other things changed as well. So it could actually play a part in enjoying Trossard's return against Forest. You know, you never know how this game can turn out. So it could be a blessing in disguise, but I do understand what you mean. Perisic played 90, Sessegnon played 0 though this week. That is a good point. Obviously, look, the way I see it, Sessegnon will start in one of the next 2 games, but against United, will he go for Sessegnon over Perisic? Does Conte trust Sessegnon enough? Well, to be honest, based on his performances this season, he should trust him, but we just don't know what his approach is going to be going into that game. And also, if he plays Sessegnon, that also could help Son, because like I said, Perisic occupies a lot of similar positions to Son, and it doesn't really benefit him FPL-wise. Obviously, Conte won't care about FPL, but the more goals and assists that Son can get, the better for Spurs, and the more dangerous they are. What do you think of Billing? So I mentioned a few players around his price, like Xhaka and Almiron. You know, those two and Billing are the 3 best at that price and below. Billing has been very impressive and someone I never expected to talk about. Saka or Martinelli, if budget's not an issue. I like both of them a lot, and Saka is on penalties, but Martinelli is insane value. I would go for him. Wildcard in Game Week 13. When, you know, we get to Game Week 13, I will try to get a best wildcard team video because I will be away next week, unfortunately. But I will be back. So not the next weekend, but the one after, basically. I will try to get a Game Week 13 wildcard team video after the Tuesday deadline. So between Wednesdays and Thursday, I'll try to record it. So I'll try my very best. Marsh a punt? He could be. I do prefer Trossard and even Gross and McAllister, but Marsh has been looking pretty good. Or sorry, Marsh has been pretty good, yes. Maddison to Bowen, Foden, Trossard or Anthony. Well, I wouldn't get Foden in right now, but if we're looking long-term, he is my favourite of the 3 or 4 that you mentioned. So if you want someone to kind of cover all, you know, bases, it would be Bowen. Kane to Tony and Sterling to Salah got 2 free transfers. I'd say no, because Kane and Sterling as a duo is arguably better than Salah and Tony in Game Week 12. And also, I prefer Kane over Salah as a premium option. Tempted by Trossard over Salah captain. No, I don't think you're mad. If I had Salah, I think I'd go for him. But at the moment, as you can see, I'm going for Trossard as the captain. It goes both ways because Trossard has the better fixture, but Brighton have looked toothless in the last 2 matches, although they should have scored against Brentford. Will sell Sterling or hold? I'd probably hold this week, but long term he's a sell in my opinion. Gross for Game Week 12. If I had him, I would keep. Would I bring him in? Probably not. I'd look elsewhere. Start Zuma or Nico Williams. Both 1 points, I know. And Zuma is a bit of a doubt heading into, you know, this weekend anyway. I would probably go for Nico Williams. Also has a bit of assist potential. KDB to Salah captain and Game Week 13 Maddison to Foden, or Maddison to Trossard and keep KDB long term. Honestly, I like all of them a lot. You know, I can understand your dilemma there. I think Foden offers better value than De Bruyne long term. And also you're getting Salah captain this week. So because of that, I'd go for the first option and then do Maddison to Foden in Game Week 13. However, the other move also looks great. And KDB for me is the best midfielder, you know, without thinking about value and price. Welbeck call next week. Yeah, he did. Welbeck also has 4 assists this season in FPL, but 0 goals. That's my main concern with him. And, you know, you're looking at the strikers. Solanke today with a goal and assist. Mitrovic is very consistent this season. Tony. And then you got Firmino and a few others like Kane, Haaland, etc. So it does make it difficult to justify Welbeck. But, you know, apart from those that I just mentioned, Welbeck is one of the better ones. I need to see more goals from him. And unfortunately, because he hasn't got a goal so far this season, and I never have that confidence in his finishing ability, I probably would say no, but you know what? You know, he's facing Nottingham Forest at home. He could have a haul, finally. Saliba, Gabriel, or Zinchenko? I'd say Saliba. Gabriel has the best attacking potential, but I think Saliba, he definitely has upped his goal scoring this season compared to recent campaigns, and also he's good for bonus points. However, I would consider Ben White. 4.5 million, playing every game as a right back. He's got a good connection with Saka. His assist potential is far higher than Gabriel and Saliba. So consider Ben White as well. I wouldn't go for Zinchenko. He's still an injury out. And I'm not too sure if when he is available again, if he will start immediately. Because you've got Tomiyasu now starting as the left back. Probably will be the case tomorrow. And the other alternative is Tierney. So there's a lot of options for Arsenal in those positions. I'd rather go for Ben White. Thank you, Ashish. I appreciate it. Been watching you for a long time. Happy to see that you're growing on subscribers. Keep up the good work. Love from India. Thank you. Big up India. And thank you very much, Ashish. I appreciate your kind words. And it's always a pleasure to see you. I do remember, of course, from many months and years ago, actually. Time does fly. Thank you very much, mate. And I hope you're having a good one. What do you think of Trossard and Gross swapped over? Gross playing forward and Trossard playing back to left wing back. Back to left wing. Look, Gross is still a good choice, and I think over time he will be a decent FPL option, but I always said this, once Graham Potter left for Chelsea, I was hugely concerned for these FPL assets, including Gross especially, but I think Trossard will consistently be the best Brighton midfielder, and based on, obviously, a very short sample size or small sample size against Liverpool, he was absolutely electric in that game. Obviously, up against Trent, I could see him getting a goal or two against Forest. Obviously, the games after that is what I'm really concerned about. And look, for me, Trossard will be the most advanced of all these players, even more advanced than Danny Welbeck. But Trossard is obviously a versatile player. He has played as a left wing back before, under Graham Potter mainly. I don't think that will be the case under the Zerbi. I only have 9 in Game Week 12. Should I take a hit? If you're taking a hit for someone like Salah or Firmino, yes, I would. It just depends on the player you're taking a hit for. 9 is fine this week, in my opinion. Best triple Arsenal players for 13 onwards, great question. I would say Ben White, Saka and Martinelli. But obviously you got a few others like Saliba and Jesus, but that will be my top 3. Welbeck call next week. Yeah, like I said earlier, it's possible, but would I go for him? No. Best Game Week 12 free hit team. It's I've already made the video. It's out for members right now, and it will be out for everyone tomorrow. So stay tuned for it. It will be out early tomorrow. Mount for Maddison and St. Maximin for Almiron. Yes, I think that looks really good. But St. Maximin is now in contention to start again. Get Salah in for next game week for a -4. Yes, I'd say so. Obviously, I'd love to see a bit more from Salah first. I know he scored a hat-trick the other day, but let's see how he does against against City first, tomorrow. If he looks good, I will take the -4. Is Aurier injured? Not even on the bench today? I believe so. And look, with Nico Williams, he's someone I don't trust anyway. Nottingham Forest are poor defensively, and there will be rotation when Aurier is available. But yeah, I think that is the case. Obviously, if anyone does, if I am wrong, then do correct me. You've already done transfer Game Week 13. So I've got 2 free transfers. I have used one of them, and that is Trossard in for Maddison. And I could use my second one on a Brighton defender. Such as Lewis Duncan for Doherty, so kind of a switcheroo in the defence. But at the moment, I think I'll stick with this. Captain Firmino or Trossard? I mean, earlier when I ranked them, I did put Trossard like second just behind Salah. I mean, Firmino's form is incredible, that's the thing. I think I would just about go for Trossard, but it's really, really close. I mean, if I had Firmino, I'd heavily consider it, honestly. Is it possible to use free hit and bench boost in the same week? No. You can never use 2 chips at the same time. I got 48 points with 5 players. Yeah, that's incredible, mate. 48 points is great. Am I happy with my game week? Yes, because I went from obviously very early days, but I've gone from 760,000 up to what you can see on screen, which is 357. So I basically halved my rank. But Arsenal, I think that can really undo me. I've only got Martinelli playing tomorrow. Also, City versus Liverpool. I've got no De Bruyne, no Salah, and a few other options like that. So I would expect my rank to go a bit down from what you see at the moment. But, if we look at my performance so far, I've still got Pope to play away to Man United. I've got Cancelo, Martinelli, and I've also got Haaland captain. So you never know. I would probably expect myself to be around 400, 500,000 in rank. But still, all things considered, I should, fingers crossed, get a green arrow. So yes, I'm relatively happy. Did the Maddison to Trossard transfer before price movements? Same here, mate. I've done it already. Obviously, it kind of helps that Maddison's kind of already ruled out with the suspension. Is Maddison worth a keep? If you've already got an 11, yes, he could be worth a keep, especially with maybe not too many options with the Arsenal and City players obviously blanking. But yes, he is worth a keep potentially, but only if you have an 11 that you're happy with. Best Maddison replacement, I have Zaha, Bowen and Andreas. I'd say Trossard. And then what I would do, Hesham, is move Trossard potentially in game week 13 or 14 to Saka or Foden, if you have the funds, of course. But I would probably do that. Thank you, Mohammed. I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind response, Dylan. You're doing great. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. Klopp usually plays Firmino in Champions League and Nunez Jota in Premier League. Still, you think Firmino above the two other Liverpool assets? In recent weeks, yes, you are right. That has been the case. But in Firmino's form, I see him starting against City and West Ham. Of course, I can be wrong, and I think Liverpool fans will know more than me. But it's very hard to drop Firmino at the moment. And also, with Diaz out and Liverpool playing this 4-2-3-1 formation, Jota plays on the left, Firmino and Nunez play together with Salah as well on the right-hand side. So I think that's how Liverpool will operate and their best team currently. Is Maddison worth a keep? Oh, sorry, I just said that. Trossard replacements, Eze maybe. Why sell Trossard though? You know, he's facing Forest at home. I would sell Trossard in 13 or 14. And in terms of replacements, I would go to Zaha potentially. Although I'd mainly look at Bowen and definitely Saka and Foden in 13. You know, those are the top two. Keep Trossard for now, mate. Gomez while Trent is out, yes, but it's a really short-term punt. Trent is only out for a week or two, I think. Did you buy Trossard for 1 week? Yes. And the reason I did that is because I have 2 free transfers, so I still have 1 more available. So going into Game Week 13, assuming everything stays the same, I would have 2 free transfers heading into Game Week 13 as well. And that's where I can get Saka or Foden and also Ben White. Are you ready for tomorrow? City game, PSG, El Clasico? Yes, I am, mate. Yes, I am. And obviously, I would have loved to do a stream tomorrow as well, but I've got the video coming tomorrow, the best free hit team, so I wanted to do the stream today and stuff. But yes, I have time, I think, to watch some of these games. The City-Liverpool game is the one that most intrigues me. So annoyed, had Gay, Mitrovic and Justin on the bench. I feel your pain, mate. But honestly, did we expect a Crystal Palace and Leicester clean sheet? No. And obviously both happened in that game. It's kind of the worst case scenario for most of us. Would you take a hit for Emerson or just play him? If -4, which defender worth this? Would I take a hit for Emerson? As bad as the fixture is, no, I wouldn't. I have 2 free transfers. I need to replace Maddison and KDB, Salah and Trossard. Honestly, I would do that, Rude. You've basically hit the nail on the head there. But in the long term, I would sell Trossard to Saka or Foden. But that looks great for this week. Got Andreas Justin Ward on the bench, 12 points. Just to make you feel a little bit better, just check this as well. You know, I think a lot of us are in a similar position. So if you add up these points, I've got 16 there. And Trippier's yet to play. If he gets an assist, that's 21 points, you know, immediately on my bench potentially. So, yeah, I think a lot of us have, you know, at least 10 points on our bench. I still don't think it's a bad decision, though, to bench these players that we have. 34 from 4 at the moment. That's incredible. And that's way better than what I've done, for example, because I've got what? I think I've got 4 players left. Yeah, I've got 4 players left and only 39 points, you could say. So, honestly, your score is much more impressive. Hi Dylan, love the streams. Would Captain Trossard or Kane? Thank you. Show me the Mane. Great name. I thank you very much for your kind words. I would go for Trossard at the moment, but I do recognise that by the time we get to the Tuesday deadline, I might be a bit more sensible and just say Harry Kane. But the fixture there is, incredible for Trossard, and I would go for him. As of now, have 8 players for Game Week 12. I don't think I'll use the free hit though. We'll use 2 free transfers to get 10. That's the way to go, I think. You've got 2 free transfers. I definitely wouldn't use the free hit. A free and 13 for Saka and Foden is the plan. A hit, sorry. Yeah, it looks great to me, Marco. I would have said the exact same thing for you. 17 points, says Anguilla. Yeah, I do feel your pain there. Yeah, 17 points is obviously tough to take. Palace not scoring, thoughts on Zaha? The thing is, would I sell Zaha right now? No. But in the coming weeks, so maybe, between Game Weeks 13 and 15, especially for Saka and Foden, I would do it. But right now, I'd keep Zaha. I am concerned about Crystal Palace. They're not getting the ball enough to Zaha. He's not having a big impact on these games, and that obviously limits his ceiling and obviously Crystal Palace overall. I'm mainly looking at the defensive assets at the moment, like Anderson, Gay, and Gaeta in goal. Salah, Firmino, and Trossard for a -4. Mate, it looks great. Obviously, I don't know which players you're getting out, but great players for this week. Trossard is probably a sell in 13 or 14, but as long as you're aware of that, it's completely fine. Starkweather to get... Oh, sorry, I just said that as well. Yeah, that's good, Marco. All good. Show your so far total score should be 38 or 39. 39. I checked live FPL.net. So I think everything considered. So let me actually add up here and see if it all corresponds. So 12, 14, 17, 20, 26... Wait, can I count or not? Let me just do that again. 6... Yeah, okay, I see what you mean there. I think I'm getting 1 bonus point basically. That's from Mitrovic. He's getting 1 bonus point. Son obviously not getting any. Doherty as well. Kilman is not getting any either. But I think it does all add up. I'm going to go to livefpl.net and you can see my latest rank and stuff. Yeah, it's 39 points. It's all added up. All done. Yeah, it's all good. Okay. So we'll now go back. Actually, I'm going to show you a few things first, very quickly. So the fixture ticker here. Crystal Palace are top with Everton, Liverpool, Spurs and United completing the top 5. Obviously, once again, City, Arsenal right down there at the bottom because of the blank. But after that, they will be right up there, believe me. Then when you look at predicted points, Salah is top, and I do agree with that. Kane, Trossard, Son, Sterling making up the top 5. Then you've got Wilson, McAllister, Welbeck, Watkins and Dunk. So as you can see, the algorithm is heavily favouring Brighton, and that's why I am considering a transfer from Doherty to Lewis Dunk, but of course that will impact getting in an Arsenal defender in Game Week 13, which to be fair isn't the end of the world. And also a few other things to show you, like we talked about before, Trossard is predicted to go up in price, and in terms of players going down, no one really of note that we can see here. I'm refreshing the page. Is there anyone? No, I don't think so. No one that's important really in FPL. Yep, no, absolutely nobody. So don't worry too much. No one of note should be going down anytime soon, but Maddison will probably before the deadline. So that is all covered. And yeah, we are now going to go back to my team for how I did in Game Week 11 so far. I've got 4 players left. I do expect my rank to go down slightly, unfortunately, but still, should be a green arrow. All things considered, not too shabby. So I think having 5 or 6 differentials, which I have had this week, has definitely benefited me. Hopefully a few more hauls from the players tomorrow. Apologies for that, didn't mean to do that. All right, so let's go back to your questions. 44 with bonus, really good score, mate. And if you have like 4 players or more tomorrow, looks really good. Best defenders except Trippier, Cancelo and Gay. I'd probably say Kilman. I said this as well before the deadline. I expected him to get a clean sheet in Game Week 11, sorry. Do I expect 1 in 12? Not necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised either against Palace, and they've got some kind of mixed fixtures afterwards. Pope or Ward for next game week? I'd go for Pope, and I talk about this in the free hit team video as well. Biggest troll this season, Zaha, Trent or Salah? That's a good question. Probably Trent because of his price. You know, everyone, including myself, said he should have been priced at 8.5 million. And they was, you know, FPL did a big mistake with him. There's a lot of expectations going into the season. Only 1 haul. And also, you know, just literally a minute or 2 away from getting a clean sheet against Everton, subbed off. So it's probably Trent for me. Ward not on bonus in live FPL for some reason. Yeah, Marco, like I talked to you on Twitter, it's because it's Ward from Crystal Palace who got the bonus points, not Ward from Leicester City. So yeah, Joel Ward is the one that got the bonus points. I did James to Webster. I didn't have to play Andreas. Then decided to bench Mitrovic instead of Webster or Gay. What a week this is. Just amazing. Yeah, I feel your pain, but to be honest, there's bench points everywhere. And it's not the end of the world. Obviously, I'm a bit frustrated with the 16 points on my bench. It could even become 20 plus tomorrow, but it is what it is. What do you think about Leeds midfielders for the next 4 game weeks? Well, Rodrigo would be my pick. Sinister is now back from suspension as well. But I do prefer midfielders from, you know, West Ham, such as Bowen. You're looking at Trossard for this game week. And then, of course, Saka and Foden, who I've mentioned a lot of times in this video, of course. It's a shame we can't bring him in right now. And there's still a few others like Maddison when he's back from suspension. So I think they could be pretty good like Rodrigo, but there are better options. Trossard captain, at the moment, I am going there. Let's wait and see if I stay with the captaincy. Players for 1 game week, next game week, Trossard, Lewis Dunk, Webster, you know, they would be right up there. Robert Sanchez, although I wouldn't make a goalkeeper transfer. And a few others would be McAllister. Basically Brighton. And then anyone else, really, I'd say Firmino and Salah, really good choices. Yeah, no worries, Marco. I also thought, you know, when you said, oh, Ward got 2 bonus points, I never actually thought about Joel Ward from Crystal Palace. How many times has he gotten bonus points in the past? So I do get that. Maddison replacement, I have Zaha, Trossard and Andreas. I'd say Bowen. Long term, though, you know, kind of my take on it, it'll be Foden and Saka. But Bowen right now, yeah. Yeah, Reece James, yeah, true. He's probably the biggest disappointment as well. good start to the season, you know, getting attacking returns, despite Chelsea struggling. But, you know, since Game Week 4, no returns. Now he's got a long-term injury potentially. I do agree. 32 with 6 to play, that's really good. Would you have KDB or Foden from Game Week 13? I think KDB will get more points, but when you factor in the value, and also I think Foden could match him, kind of, I'd go for Foden. And basically, you could also get Harry Kane up front, who will probably score a similar amount, if not more points than KDB this season, and also will start every game, unlike KDB. I have 7 more players and 31 points. Honestly, great position to be in, Stefan. Anderson in for Soufal or Nico for Game Week 12? Good question. Probably Soufal, but ultimately I would sell both if you can. Yeah, Danny Ward was given man of the match on the FPL app. No, it was Ward from Crystal Palace, I think, Marco. Yeah, I think so anyway. If it was Ward from Leicester, then that's really strange. Obviously, I need to double check that. Saka or Foden, who is better from Game Week 13? I think Foden, but it's really close. And I'm talking about really close. If Trossard in for Maddison leads to a hit over the next 3 or 4 game weeks, do you think it's worth it? Yes, I still think it's worth it. Is Solanke worth one of the prized free forward spots? Look, I'm still not his biggest fan, and I do prefer Mitrovic, Tony, Firmino, Kane, Haaland. But yes, you know, if it enables you to go for Kevin De Bruyne midfield long term, then yes. The reason why I'd still not go for him, despite him offering decent value, as we've always said, is because you mainly want to invest the money in the forward line. You know, if you were to go for a second premium, you'd probably say Kane alongside Haaland and going for 4, 6 to 8 million midfielders like Martinelli, Trossard, Bowen, etc. All these options I mentioned a lot of times. But he is obviously good value. Do you think a free hit is worth it with 8 starters? Not in my opinion. I'd stick with 8, maybe take a hit for 9 or something. I would not take a free hit though. Who would you get instead of Maddison for next game week? I've already made my transfer. I brought in Leandro Trossard for a 1-week punt, and I'll then move him on for Foden or Saka in game week 13, depending on how things turn out. Haaland to Mitrovic, Tony nailed to 16. Any other forwards worth considering? Firmino. Firmino and Kane, of course, would be the 2 ones that could, let's say, dismantle the status quo. But yeah, that front three still looks pretty good to me, and I'm happy to keep them. Maddison replacement, for me, it's Trossard. If you want someone kind of long-term, I would say Bowen. I'd highly recommend him, but I do prefer Saka and Foden in 13 up till 16 and 17. Are you happy with Son as your second premium? No, definitely not. Any plans to go 1 premium? Yes, but because I've got other plans and I can also bring in Foden and Saka without getting rid of Son, I probably don't need to get rid of him, but I have to say he's been very frustrating. He's probably my biggest troll as well. One of the biggest trolls anyway. Perisic for Game Week 12 instead of... Would I bring in Perisic? Not really, because he's facing United. He might not even start the game. And I think United score a goal or 2. So I honestly wouldn't get him. What about Nunez? Also a good shout, and he has looked very sharp against Rangers and Arsenal, but I do prefer Firmino still. Although you would argue Nunez is a bit more nailed in the Premier League. Should I play the free hit? I have 6 Arsenal City players having 2 free transfers. What do you think? So you're basically down to, what? Let's say, I'm not sure what your other kind of bench players are saying, but 9 players. If you can get to a full 11, or at least 9 or 10, mate, I think that's fine. I would just use your 2 free transfers and not play the free hit. I do understand why you would potentially want to play it, because you can keep these Arsenal City players that you'd want from 13 onwards. But I really think there's a big upside to keeping the free hit for a blank or double later in the season. You think a hit is necessary in Game Week 12 when you can field 11 players? No, I don't think it's necessary. Remove Zaha for Foden, Saka, and keep Son, Trossard? Yeah. I mean, that was my original plan, but obviously instead of Trossard, it would have been Maddison for me. But yeah, I think Zaha, if Palace continue around this trajectory, I would get rid of him potentially for Foden or Saka. But you also have to think about the fixtures for Brighton. A lot can change, by the way, in the next week or so. But basically for me, and I'm in a similar position to you, Singh, it's either Zaha or Trossard making way for Foden and Saka. It could be both as well, by the way, since I really like those 2 midfielders. Reece James to Silva or Koulibaly? I'd probably go for Koulibaly. Greenwood and Maddison to Mitrovic and Trossard -4 for 11 points, 11 players. Trossard to Foden in Game Week 13. I would do it, Will. I think that looks really good. What about Jota? Not an option for me right now. I would rather go for the others like Firmino and Nunez. Sorry. Hold Salah or sell for Kane? I'd hold Salah this week. I have Mitrovic, Kane, Haaland, Bowen, Maddison, Zaha, Martinelli, and Andreas. Nico, Perisic, Trippier, Cancelo, and Cucurella. What should I do for one transfer? It's a tough one. So your forward line is fine. I wouldn't change anything necessarily. Bowen, Maddison, Zaha, Martinelli. I would do Maddison to Trossard, personally, Dirif. Question, Nunez or Salah, who scores more points this year? I still think Salah. Rashford for Maddison replacement? I think there are better options, but he is still a decent choice. I won't deny that. Hillman or Castagna for James? Hillman. Reece James, replacement please. Hillman or Anderson? What to do with Son and Maddison? I would keep Son and sell Maddison. Best KDB and Maddison replacements in your opinion? KDB, it would be Salah as a like-for-like. Maddison, I would say Jarrod Bowen or Trossard. Long-term though, Matthew, you know my answer. I've said it a lot of times today. Foden and Saka. But of course, when you're talking about Game Week 12 as well, that would be my answer. I have one transfer for next week. Should I switch James and Maddison for Foden and Webster for Game Week 12, then have a starting 11 next week? Yes, I would. But I ultimately... Wait, obviously, don't get Foden in right now, Lucas. Obviously, just get him in Game Week 13. If you already have a full 11, then that's fine enough, and you kind of prevent the price drop for Maddison for you. But yeah, just bear that in mind with Foden. He's not going to play in 12. But if you have a starting 11 anyway, it's not a big deal. Really considering Sterling as my Maddison replacement instead of Trossard. We'll need to see what minutes he gets. That's completely understandable. For Game Week 12 only, I do prefer Trossard, but that is a good shout. Sterling as a Maddison replacement, yep, it's completely fine. I do prefer going for an 8 million midfielder or below. I think they offer better value and will arguably score more points. Who do you think is a better option to replace KDB next game week, Son or Salah? I want to see how Salah performs tomorrow first, but looking at the next 3 or 4 game weeks, I would probably say Salah. It's really close though, and honestly, my overall preference is to go for 6 to 8 million midfielders. What about Rice? Not an FPL option. Seems like we don't need the 100 million anymore. I mean, because we have such a lack of premium options apart from De Bruyne, Haaland and Harry Kane, I agree. Is Nico Williams to Gomez worth a hit in 12? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth a hit. What's up with James? When will he be available? I don't know the answer to that. No one does. But the news that came out today is that the injury isn't as severe as expected, so he doesn't need a surgery. However, he still could miss out every single game before the World Cup, so he will be out up until Game Week 16-17. Dylan, you convinced me to Trossard move, especially when you are captaining him. Okay, just to make it very clear, you know, obviously I've got the captaincy on him right now, and I love the idea of it, but it's not set in stone, it's not nailed on, but he is in my top 3 captaincy options overall this week for sure. If I had Salah, Firmino, or Kane, I would arguably go for one of them, especially Salah and Firmino. I'm going to rant on deadline stream if it doesn't work out. Yeah, fair enough, but just be very cautious about captaining someone like Trossard, who isn't a reliable option, you know, kind of historically, let's say. Patterson to Kilman, Webster, Botman, or Castagna, says Suvam. I would go for Kilman. Which Arsenal defenders would you have long-term, either White or Saliba? Should I sell Maddison to Foden? In Game Week 13, yes. Right now, it makes no sense because Foden doesn't play. Point hit to field 11? It depends which player you bring in. If it's someone of real quality like Salah who you can captain, or Trossard, then yes, I would. You're going to have 7 players out next game week. Any suggestions for Ramsdale as goalkeeper? Jesus and Maddison. To replace Ramsdale, I would go for, if you're looking long-term, it'd be Jose Sarr potentially. Jesus, it would be Firmino, and Maddison, I would look towards Trossard as a 1-week punt, longer-term Bowen. Would you bring in Anthony or Bowen for Maddison? I'd go for Bowen. Saliba, Gabriel, yeah, I mean, they're both fine, but I would prefer White over Gabriel. Foden is about to price rise. Yeah, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to Foden price rise when he doesn't play in 12. You know, he's someone I want to get in 13, but right now he doesn't play. Bowen as a Maddison replacement, yes, good option. I do prefer Saka and Foden, but of course they blank in 12. So yes, Bowen is a good choice. Good thing about Sterling, though, is you can always move down to any 8 million midfielder you want. True, but I would rather just have these 8 million midfielders from the get-go. But I do get your point. I have 2 Man City players and suspended Maddison, and I have 1 free transfer left. What should I do? Not a bad situation. If you have no Arsenal players, and you've only got 3 players missing this week, you're fine, to be honest. You could even keep Maddison. Who would you play next week, Ward or Gaeta? I would play Gaeta. If you had to stick with one till the wild card, would you go for Salah? KDB, Kane, or no second premium and spread the funds. I'd probably go for Kane. What to do with Nico Williams? I would keep, if you have an 11 already and you've got some free transfers to spare, then I would sell. But otherwise, if you really need the numbers, I would just keep him for now. Plays with 9 players or take a hit. 9 is fine. If you're taking a hit for a really good option for this week, then you could do it. I wouldn't take a -8 though. Just joined James replacements. Like I said earlier, Kilman and Anderson, and they're not going to get you points every single week. They are inconsistent, especially Anderson, but they are good options overall. Solanke or hold a move to Tony. I mean, you could just hold him right now. I mean, Tony faces Chelsea. I'd hold Solanke. Maddison to Trossard for a hit to get 10 players or play 9 and then transfer in Foden for Maddison. I'd probably take the hit for Trossard, but then move him on for Foden in Game Week 13. It's amazing how preferred FPL formations have been changing. I mean, yeah, last season, we all wanted one forward spot or 0 if we could, and now we want 3 or 4 forwards all of a sudden, and we want fewer defenders, for example. So things do change. James to Joe Gomez to field 11 or Mitrovic to Darwin and field 10. James to Joe Gomez, but he's a really short-term pick. Forza Romero performance, yeah, he played well, but still, he has a kind of a few moments, obviously today he played well. I don't think Spurs fans have seen the best of him. Evening, Dylan. 9 players, including Nico, but wildcarding in 13. Who to bring in as a 1-week punt? I have Trossard. As a 1-week punt, I would say Firmino is a good one. Bowen for longer term, yes. Although, once again, not my favourite pick overall, but in terms of players to bring in right now, he's up there. No worries, Dylan. I understand it's not confirmed captaincy move, but I really like the move hit in case the captaincy is involved. Yeah, I do get that. I was just kind of making it clear because obviously things do change over time. Can I keep 3 blanks? Yes, of course. That's what I'm doing myself, mate. If you check my team selection, if you look at the bench there, I've got the exact same thing as what you just said. Firmino, Trossard or Mitrovic captain. I would go for Trossard or Firmino. And at the moment, I'm leaning towards Trossard. Hi, Saka for Bowen and Maddison for Trossard. Looks good to me, but ultimately I would bring in Saka again in 13 or 14. I'm good, Jeff. I appreciate it. Obviously, look, I expected Kilman to get a clean sheet against Forest, but also very lucky. Jose Sarr saved the penalty. It's also down to luck. Dunk to Perisic from -4. No, why would you do that? Perisic plays United away. He might not even start, and Dunk faces Nottingham Forest at home. I wouldn't do it for a hit. No chance. It's up to you, but not for me. Should I keep Mitrovic or transfer him in for Tony? I'd keep Mitrovic. I mean, Tony's facing Chelsea as well. Best third striker under 7.5 million from now until the World Cup. Mitrovic. Yeah, I'd say Mitrovic. I have Maddison and KDB in my team, but I have 1 free transfer. Is it better just to sell KDB and bench Maddison or take a -4 and sell both? I'd say it's just better to avoid the hit if you can, but I don't really see a big issue with taking a hit and maybe taking a punt on Trossard or someone like that. Salah or Trossard captain next week? I'd probably go for Salah out of those two, but Trossard's looking really good as well. Maddison replacement for 1-week punt? Trossard. Have 6 players between Arsenal and City, cannot bench all. Jesus, Ramsdale definitely out. Bessel, Cancelo or Foden, and keep Maddison, and keep Haaland and Martinelli. Looks good to me. I mean, Cancelo's another one you want long-term for sure. Martinelli and Haaland are also the same kind of bracket there. So Foden is the most sellable, so to speak. So yeah, Jesus, Ramsdale, I agree. I would sell them for sure. And the other one would be Foden. You could keep the rest though and just bench them. 280k to 77k, hopefully I can stay there. Really good, Amir. Obviously, we do have some big games tomorrow, and for example, in my own situation, I am expecting a rank drop, but if we can stay in there, it's all good. Romero always has a yellow card tackle in him. Definitely, he's very aggressive. Aubameyang captain for Game Week 12. Not a bad shout, but I'm actually more looking at the Liverpool assets, even Spurs, and not to mention Trossard, who I've said so many times today. Thanks, I like Liverpool assets, even thinking to bring Jota, Firmino in until the World Cup. I do prefer Firmino, but as some people have rightly said, in recent weeks anyway, he's kind of more of the Champions League guy, so to speak. So if anyone were to drop out, it could be him. But with the form he's in, I think it's very, very unjust, should I say, for him to drop out. Should I keep Mitrovic or transfer in Tony? Up to you, mate, but I'd keep Mitrovic. Got 53 points off 8 players, have Haaland, Cancelo, Martinelli left. Worth a -8 next week. If if you've only got 3 blanks next week and Maddison, you don't really need to take a -8 in my opinion. Jesus to Kane or Maddison to Son? Good question. I would rather do Jesus to Kane, because Kane is my favourite kind of second premium. Obviously, Haaland's the top one. De Bruyne and Maddison for Bowen and Trossard. Yep, looks good to me. Harry Kane or Tony Captain? Kane. Nuri in for Soufal. I'm not that convinced about Nuri. I'd rather go for Kilman. If you don't have Arsenal midfielders, who would you bring in, Martinelli or Saka? Because of price, I'd go for Martinelli. And to be honest, they're both great options. You can't go wrong with either. Only 2 main friends to your rank left, I think, KDB and Jesus. Yeah, I agree. They're the 2 main ones, but, you know, still, there could be an accumulation of things that can go wrong tomorrow. You never know. Yeah, I think I can stay in the top 400k, but I don't expect myself to be in 350k or above. If I am, obviously, I'd be very happy with that. Aboard the Trossard train, lads. I think everyone and their dog's going to do it, to be honest. And yeah, it's going to be a very simple move, so to speak. Yeah, Dunk in for Perisic for -4. I mean, look, I do like Dunk more so than Perisic, and I would do it for free. But for a hit, I'm not sure. If we get murmurings of Perisic being benched, then I would do it. But you're really relying on a clean sheet for Brighton for it to pay off, and you never know. James to Kilman and Maddison to Bone for a -4 to play 11 players. Looks great to me. Metab, I would do it. Maddison to Trossard and KDB to Salah captain for a hit, then Trossard Foden Game Week 13. Looks fantastic, Javier. I would do the exact same thing as you, even with the hit in mind. Let's rest it and buy Nunez when he scores 2 versus City. I mean, he could score. Scoring a brace, you know, would be impressive. I do expect both teams to score plenty of goals. Firmino is still my favourite, though. Should I do a -4 and get rid of James and Maddison? Depends which players you bring in, but it looks good to me. It was Perisic to Dunk. Yeah, it does make sense. You know, it makes more sense in my opinion, but I wouldn't take a hit for it. 7 players, including Emerson. 1 transfer to 8 or free hit. 1 transfer to 8, in my opinion. Thoughts on Rodrigo pun? I do like Rodrigo, but once again, it comes down to having other preferences in midfield. KDB to Salah and Maddison to Foden for a -8. I've already made 1 transfer, James to Kilman. Out of those, I would rather do KDB to Salah because Salah actually plays in 12. Long term, of course, I do prefer Foden. Just a suggestion, you could get a small thing on stream providing the answer to the same questions. Yeah, that is true. That is a good suggestion and something I'd like to include. I'll see what I can do. I don't think I'd be able to over the next week or so. I am going to be away, but that's something I'm looking to maybe do over the next few weeks and months, especially when we have the kind of break for the World Cup. So I appreciate that. Who should I bring in for James? I'd say Kilman or Anderson. Just long-term, decent fixtures, and you know you can rotate between them. And also Ben White, but I'd bring him in 13. De Bruyne and Maddison in for Salah or Son, and Bowen Trossard. I would rather go for Bowen and Trossard, which does sound crazy. Sadly, bench gave for Webster 33 with 5 to go. To be honest, I would have done the same thing. I don't blame you. Is it worth taking a hit to bring in Dunk? I mean, he's one of the best defenders this week, but you really need a clean sheet for it to pay off. So I'm not a big fan of a hit, but if there was any defender I'd take a hit for, it'd probably be Dunk. Best defender for Game Week 12. I'm covering it in the Game Week 12 best free hit team tomorrow, but I'd say Dunk, Trippier, Robertson would be up there as well. Tony risks to have a 5th yellow card next game week. He's got 4 already and he's a nervous player. A bit like Maddison, I wouldn't be surprised if a suspension is on the cards. That's a good point. Will we have another wildcard chip after the World Cup? Yes, and you also get unlimited transfers, and that doesn't involve using your wildcard in basically after Game Week 16 and heading into Game Week 17. Best Game Week 12 captain, in my opinion, is between Salah, Trossard, and Firmino. Many ranks to make up after missing 6 Haaland goals earlier in the season. Yeah, for me, I mean, look, it's kind of weird because heading into Game Week 1, I even said it. I thought Haaland would do well from the get-go. I didn't expect him to do what he's been doing. I don't think anyone did. But I still went for Kane in Game Week 1. I played it a bit too smart, played a fixture. In the end, I regretted it. Got Haaland in immediately for Game Week 2. So I kind of was already starting, you know, from the back from that decision. So I do get your point. Soufal, Maddison to Bowen, and Soufal to play in -4. Play 10 men with Kane captain. Getting Soufal in... Oh, no. Fair enough. Okay, no, that's fair enough. Maybe you said another player. Yes, I would take the -4, but I'm not sure which player it is coming in for Soufal because you mentioned him twice. And Kane captain's fine. What player should I bring in for Maddison and James? I have Trossard. Bowen would be a good one. Do you think we'll still be top by the World Cup? With this team and these fixtures, I generally think we can. I think Arsenal can. But if we look at the fixtures, so let's actually break it down. So obviously both teams don't play in 12. They were supposed to play each other. So if we check the fixture ticker, so up until Game Week 16, Arsenal play Southampton, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Wolves. Arsenal have gotten joy against Chelsea in recent years, but the way I see it, so Arsenal obviously play Leeds this weekend. I think Arsenal win that game. I think they beat Southampton. They beat Forest. I think they lose to Chelsea. My opinion, they will drop points to Chelsea, so it could be a draw or a loss. I think Chelsea will win that game. That's a gut feeling I have. You look at City, I think they win this week against Liverpool, although Liverpool have never lost a game at home in the Premier League with Van Dijk starting, and obviously they haven't lost the Premier League game at Anfield this season, or this year as well. They face, obviously, Liverpool away. I expect them to win. Brighton at home, Leicester away, Fulham, and Brentford. Yeah, I expect City to win all of their games, basically. The only one where I could see some points dropped is Liverpool. So, basically, right now, if you're asking me, I think City go top going into the World Cup with Arsenal just behind. But if Liverpool drop points tomorrow, then I would be fairly confident that Arsenal can maintain top of the league status going into the World Cup. So, it's really close. It's neck and neck at the moment. Long term, I think City win the league, but Arsenal can give them a good run for their money, even, really deep into the season. But I think the squad depth will end up, playing a big part, and also injuries, which Arsenal typically get. So it's a good point you made, Marco. Arsenal can stay top, but I ultimately think it will be City going into the World Cup. Welcome, Sophia. Good to see you once again. Bailey to Eze for a -4. I wouldn't do that. Now that we're on the topic of stream addictions, a couple of things I saw for streams. Banner for common questions. Timer for deadline. Would love to hear your thoughts. Yes, I have looked into it as well. I made a lot of changes going into this season, and those were two things I was looking at. So it's definitely possible. Sing. Is Trossard only a 1 week punt? I believe so, because Chelsea and City, whilst he can haul in those games or get something, the ceiling isn't that high. Captaincy rankings also, although it's not much of a decision barring Game Week 12. Well, for this week, like I said, my ranking would be probably Salah first as the safest captain, Trossard second, and I'd probably put Firmino third and Harry Kane fourth. KDB could punish me. I transferred in Son for him. Yeah, I even said it. If I had KDB, obviously the Son move looked good for this week. He has the highest ceiling and the better fixture in Game Week 11, but I would have kept KDB for one more week and then do it in Game Week 12. What do you think about Kane captain? Blanked once all season, I think. Yeah. And also, he's got penalties, even when he plays poorly, like against Arsenal. And also, I wouldn't say he played poorly today, by the way, but I'm just saying, when he doesn't really get the chances from open play, yeah, I think he's a good captain. I mean, apart from Haaland, he's the only one I'd seriously consider most weeks. But because of the fixture, I think his ceiling is lower than Trossard, Firmino, and Salah. But I have to say, in terms of safest pick, you could arguably say Kane. So that's a good point. Best defender to replace Emerson for a -4 hit, probably Dunk, but it's really a one game week punt, so it's not ideal. What player should I bring in for James? Like I said earlier, Kilman or Anderson, but they're not really great options. Salah and Andreas to sack and Bowen next week. Yes, but that's what you're talking about. Game week 13, yeah, that looks good. But you may want Salah by that point if he looks really good against City and West Ham, and then Liverpool have some good fixtures for the next 3 or 4. Trossard for Martinelli, game week 12. Yes, and then you can do the reverse in Game Week 13. It's mad how Bournemouth are now in 6th. Do you think they're likely relegation candidates? So I think at the moment, Southampton and Forest will go down. The third team, obviously, you could point towards Leicester, but I think they'll stay up. I think the third team could be Fulham. I've been really impressed by Fulham going forward, but their defence is the worst in the league, or at least bottom 3. So I'm very concerned about Fulham. They have some quality players. I think Bournemouth will be in a relegation battle, but they have looked very, very impressive under their new manager. You have to give them big credit for that. Trossard for... Yeah, sorry, I said that already. So yeah, let me try find this. So the FPL Away Kits Chrome extension. I'll just put the link in the live chat if I can find it here. I think this is it. Yeah, I think this is it. So just check this out. I'm putting in the live chat right now. Click on the link, just add it to your browser, and you'll have the Away Kits. After Wildcard, do we get a team reset like season beginnings, or we get a Wildcard, which we play in the first week? Oh, after the World Cup, we get unlimited transfers, so it is like the beginning of the season, yes. Do you think Maddison gets the yellow card was tactical? It means he will miss Leeds at home fairly easy. I don't think it was tactical. It was really a stupid dive. It was out of desperation. He wanted to win a penalty for his team, and it would have been worth missing the game against Leeds because it could have gotten Leicester 3 points this week. But I do get what you mean. But is Leeds an easy fixture? I don't think any game is easy for Leicester right now, so I disagree. Although it's a good point that you raise in general. Yeah, there will be World Cup fantasy, so fair. In terms of videos, I will be looking to do it if possible, yes. I will keep you guys updated. Maddison to bone for a -4. Against Liverpool, would I take a hit? No. Maddison sell or hold? I'd say he's a sell for most people. What to do with Perisic? So if you've already got an 11 and he's the kind of weak link, so to speak, then you could go from him to Dunk and then move him on to an Arsenal defender in 13 or 14. And Son to KDB for Game Week 12. Yeah, getting Son in for KDB looks decent, but I have to say I'm not a big fan of Son this season. As a Liverpool fan, Virgil's record is generally the thing I'm most worried about for tomorrow. Yeah, I think it will be broken tomorrow, but Liverpool have a chance of a result. I think people are maybe underestimating them a little bit. I'm really just backing City because of the quality they have, but I think Liverpool could score a few goals past them. Trossard or Bowen for the long term? Bowen. Yeah, that sounds realistic. Obviously, can't guarantee 3 points a game, but it will probably be decided between City, Liverpool, and Chelsea, Arsenal. Yeah, those are the two games you look at. But look, football isn't played on paper. I'm pretty sure, well, Arsenal beat Chelsea last season at Stamford Bridge, but they lost to Southampton away. Arsenal do have those dodgy performances in them still. They showed it in the Europa League, obviously a bit of rotation, but still was a strong team, and they looked very weak the other day. I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal maybe drop a few points where you don't expect them to. What about Solly Marsh? He has looked decent recently, but do I trust him in FPL? No, I would just go for Trossard, honestly. Should I bring in Salah or Bowen for Maddison? I'd probably go for Salah because you can captain him this week, and then ultimately in the weeks to come you can downgrade him to anyone you want, and once again I'd point you into the direction of Foden or Saka. Anyone know when Kulusevski is due back? Richarlison pictured in tears in crutches could be a safe option. I think he should be back fairly soon. I just think they're taking it quite cautiously with him, so I don't know an exact time frame, but I don't think he'll be out for too long. Within the next week or so, he should be back. Tony risks to have a 5th yellow card next game. Good point. He's got 4 already, and he's a nervous player. Yeah, I think you said the comment earlier, and I addressed it. Honestly, I think Tony could get a yellow fairly soon. It's a bit like Maddison. I was kind of expecting it. Maddison and Haaland for Salah, Tony, then Kane to Haaland in 13. Look, it looks good to me. Just bear in mind you're going to lose a lot of value in Haaland, and you might struggle to get him back in. So as long as you know you're going to be able to afford him, it's fine. I went Kane long term and don't have a captain for this week. Would you take a -4 hit for Kane captain and 10 men, or no hit for Salah captain and 11 men? I'll be honest, I do prefer Kane over Salah long term, but I would actually go for Salah, captain him, avoid the hit, and then move Salah on to a City or Arsenal midfielder in 13, potentially. I've got 24 points so far with only 4 players played. That's pretty good, to be honest. Maddison, Kane, Mitrovic, and Kilman. That's really good, in my opinion. Kilman on my bench. Yeah, I mean, look, I was kind of struggling this week. I had to bench Trippier to start Kilman. I didn't regret it, but then look, I've benched Anderson. Things can always, go the opposite way of what you expect. But I have to say, I did expect a clean sheet for Wolves. They were very fortuitous in the end with the penalty save. That's football for you. Rodrigo, good transfer next week for Maddison. Also worth a hit to bring in Trossard. Yes, he is a good transfer, but I don't think he's the best one. I do prefer Trossard and a few others. Should I do the transfers right now or wait for the deadline? Normally, I'd say wait for the deadline, but the deadline's on Tuesday. And if you are getting rid of Maddison for Trossard, for example, and you've got 2 free transfers, I would just do it now. But in most cases, like I always say, try to wait. Zaha trolling as usual, yep. Whenever I've had him, whether it's Sky Fantasy Football or FPL, he always trolls me. Should I just said that, sorry. Go to Game Week 12 with 10 players or go to 11 with, go into it with 11 with a -4. I would just go into it with 10 players, unless the -4 is getting in a captainable player like Trossard, Firmino, Kane, Salah, etc. Vincent Kompany has been pressing at Burnley this season. They've only got 1 loss in 14 games. I heard about that. Really impressive stuff. It's good to see. I do like him as a sports personality, and I hope he does well. Marsh would be half decent if classified as a defender. I agree. As a midfielder, I just don't trust him to get goal contributions, despite his good positions in the last few games, especially against Brentford. Time for some beer and drinks now. Take care. Thank you, Amir. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I need to stay away from a stupid drunk FPL decision. Good and wise decision there. Do not make decisions when drunk. I've made plenty of rage transfers when under the influence. Although actually, to be honest, it doesn't. I don't need to be, let's say drunk per se or tipsy to make bad decisions or rage transfers. Thoughts on Barca's current situation? Well, they're top of the league and they are doing well in La Liga, but in the Champions League, it has shown their deficiencies. I think there's some players that need to go. Busquets is going at the end of the season. You've got Jordi Alba and Piqué, who should have been gone a long time ago. And obviously, I've said this for years now. They had a big dependence on Messi. They don't have him now to kind of drag them out of the mud. And now, in the last 2 years, when Messi's not been there, they are potentially going to be out of the Champions League group stages. So there's still a long way for them to go. And I even said this, a few weeks ago. I don't think they're in my top 5, Champions League favourites. I put Bayern Munich above them, PSG, and then the top 2, City and Madrid. And also right now, you've got Napoli as well, who could be kind of an outside favourite. But with Barcelona specifically, I'm not too surprised about them going out in the group stage. It was always kind of a tough group for them, but I still expected them. If you had to ask me, I thought they'd go second. Hasn't happened, and I think Inter will beat Pilsen, and that will be enough to secure them down to the Europa League, which is great. When Arsenal are in the Europa League, they always get some really top dogs going down from the Champions League, and this year, it's absolutely crazy the names that could go down. Can't believe we fell to Zaha trap again. To be fair, though, the fixtures are there. He's on penalties. He looked really good at the start of the season, but his kind of form was dipping, ever since he came back. Zaha's always a bit of a troll. I still think he's a decent choice, but looking back on it now, I wish I had Bowen, for sure. Anyway, I don't really care because in the next few weeks, I think I'll be getting Saka and Foden in, so I can shop about them as well, and it won't be an issue. Reece James expected to be out for 8 weeks. Yeah, so the injury isn't that bad, like I said earlier. It's not going to involve surgery, but he's not expected to play again before the World Cup. Nunez or Firmino? I prefer Firmino personally, although Nunez is a bit more likely to start, so to speak. Is Wildcard in 12 worth it? I would rather use it in 13, Mickey. Obviously, I don't know what your team situation is like, but I would rather use it in 13. Because you can stack up on these City and Arsenal players, dead end your team into 12 basically, if you can, with maybe a hit or something, or 2 free transfers, and then you can wildcard into some Arsenal and City players like Foden, Saka, Ben White, Saliba, whoever you want to go for. Got 2 free transfers for 12, James to Kilman and Maddison to Trossard, had the free transfer saved for 13, but these will probably be short-term picks. We'll be moving on to bring Arsenal and City assets. I'm doing something similar, and honestly, I really like those moves. I would go for it. Kilman is also a bit of a long-term pick anyway. Thoughts on Jose Sarr, Neto, Trippier, Aspie, Castagna, Trossard, Son, Zaha, Højbjerg, Billing, Mitrovic and Firmino. Good team. Obviously, Højbjerg scored this week, but I don't like him as an FPL option still. I'd be concerned about him. So yeah, good team, but there's maybe a few missing players like Kane and Salah, of course, not to mention the likes of Bowen and Trossard. No, actually, no, you got Trossard, my bad. But I think there's still a few options that would improve your team. So really, I look at Højbjerg, even Billing. Yeah, those two wouldn't fill me with confidence. Should I go with James to Robertson? I really like Robertson, but until we see Liverpool shoring things up at the back and Robertson being a viable FPL option once again, I wouldn't go for him. Only on a free hit, not as a normal transfer. Also, Welbeck. He's a decent choice. He gets plenty of assists. He's got 4 this season, but he hasn't scored any goals so far. Thank you, everything, Zim. I appreciate it, but let's see how I do tomorrow. That is the big question. Injuries of the back cost Barca. Yes, but it's also, against Bayern, they were the better team. They had plenty of chances. Pedri missed a sitter. Lewandowski missed 2 or 3 chances. So, yeah, obviously, with everyone available, they are a decent defence. But even in the Champions League with Koundé there, I always had that impression that any time that Bayern would attack them or any good opposition, they could concede goals. What do you think I should change for Game Week 12? I have 1 free transfer. My other players are Arsenal and City. What would I change? I mean, there's not much I would change. So you've got Pope, Perisic, Cancelo, Kilman, Trippier, Andreas Reed, Mitrovic, Trossard. So Gil, if you've got someone like Foden or Saliba, someone like that, I would get rid of them. And potentially you could get someone like Mason Mount or go up to Sterling, for example. So I don't know which players you have from City and Arsenal on your bench, but I would keep Cancelo and look to get rid of one of your City or Arsenal midfielders or defenders. We were robbed away at Inter as well. Yeah, that is true. That was a blatant penalty. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's not a penalty. But as soon as I saw the replay, I was like, wow, how did they not give that? Raya scored me a nice 10. Makes up for all the blanks I have. I mean, fair play. I mean, I did mention Raya as like a top 5 goalkeeper option, but he was lower down the list. And I still think he's inconsistent. I don't trust Brentford defensively, but there you go. You know, a 10-pointer after a 0-pointer, peak FPL. I have 6 players out next game week. Yeah, you know, sometimes even with all the planning we do, you know, you sometimes have to sacrifice something. Do you sacrifice the points right in front of you, you know, with the Arsenal and City players, or do you get rid of some of them and then prepare well for Game Week 12? There's always a compromise, and I get what you mean there. Why so bullish over Firmino over Nunez? Yes, Nunez does hog most of the chances, but Firmino, for me, has impressed me so much. Anytime I've watched him, his overall play, he doesn't just get goals, but he also gets assists, and he has obviously gotten the most goal contributions by far from the Liverpool team, and he's got some decent underlying numbers. So Firmino is my favourite. Of course, I do recognise that Nunez has the better, you know, XG and shots per 90, but I still prefer Firmino overall. But I have to say, both are fine, and both will do a really good job, I think, this week. Who do you prefer from Game Week 12, Robertson or Trippier? Still Trippier for me. I went for Welbeck instead of Trossard. Thoughts? Look, Welbeck is a decent pick. I think he will get goal contributions, but do I think he will score goals and get a high ceiling? I don't think so. I think Trossard is more likely. Should I take a -4 hit to get 10, 11 players playing in 12, or take no hit and have 9, 11 players? Honestly, once again, it comes down to which players you're bringing in for a hit. You know, if you're getting rid of Kevin De Bruyne for Salah for a hit, I think it's worth it. So be careful of that. 9 is fine with 0 transfers made. James to Dyer or Doherty long term? It would be Eric Dyer. Best Maddison replacement for Game Week 12? For Game Week 12, it would be Trossard, in my opinion. How far down the pecking order is Salah as far as mids go? Well, for Game Week 12, he's right up there. He's in the top 3, probably the first best option, you could say. Best captaincy option. But in the long term, how would I rank it? I think KDB will score the most points. He's technically first. And then I'd also put the likes of Foden, Saka, Maddison when he's back from suspension because of value and what you can do with that extra money. Bowen, I'm liking the look of as well. So really when I'm looking down the list, Salah would be maybe 6th, 7th, and that's not good enough for someone who is 12.7 million. And, you know, for that price, you want to be captaining most weeks. Best option for Game Week 12, except for Salah under 10 million. Trossard is increasing in price. I'd say Trossard, honestly, and I say this in the video tomorrow, so be sure to check out the best free hit team video. For me, the only 2 midfielders who are essential, so to speak, in Game Week 12 is Salah and Trossard. Who would I captain? Probably Salah, but I'm really intrigued by Trossard. Maddison to Bowen or Trossard? Long-term Bowen. For this week, I would go for Trossard. So it's completely up to what you're looking to do. Already have Foden. Is Trossard worth it for 1 week? Yes, he is. And then you can move him on to Saka. I have Cancelo, Foden, Haaland, but I also have Maddison and James. What should I do for Game Week 12 and going forward? I have 37 points this week. Pretty good there. What would I do? I would sell James and I'd probably sell Maddison and keep your City players there, young B. So I would sell James to Kilman or Anderson or, you know, any defender that you may or may not have already. And I would move Maddison down to Trossard as a 1 week punt potentially and then move to Saka. If you want someone long term, go for Bowen, I think. Raya, Tony carrying my week. Palace clean sheet took away from it somewhat. Yeah, there's always something that won't go your way. It is a bit frustrating. How many times will Leicester and Crystal Palace keep a clean sheet in the same week? Or how many clean sheets are Leicester going to get this season? Not that many, but there you go. Got 40 points right now. Captain Son, pretty devastated. I do feel for you, but 40 points is a good, you know, points total. And if you got 4 or 5 players tomorrow, you could still get a really good week overall. Veltman or Trippier for a free hit? I would say Trippier. But I would go for one Brighton defender on the free hit for sure, or goalkeeper. Paqueta's a differential. Obviously, he looked good in the last game, but I would rather go for Bowen. I would rather go for Bowen. I've got Martinelli, Foden, Cancelo, Haaland, Maddison, and James. I am finished for the next week. I wouldn't say it's too bad. Obviously, it's obviously not ideal. I would maybe get rid of 2 or 3 for a hit or so. So I'd get rid of James, Maddison, and to be honest, I'd keep the rest of the Arsenal City players and just play with 10 Rafe. It's not too bad. I have Haaland, Edouard, Mitrovic, Martinelli, KDB, Bowen, Maddison, Zaha, Nico Williams, Aspilicueta, Emerson, Trippier, Dyer, Pope, Iverson. Who should I buy? 1 free transfer and willing to take a hit. So I would definitely keep Haaland, Martinelli. I would probably get rid of KDB and maybe move him to Salah for this week. And if you were to take a hit, I think your defence could do with a bit of improvement. You know, obviously Trippier looks great. Aspilicueta is not too shabby either, and Dyer. Honestly, I think, yeah, Salah in for KDB is the one to go for. I do prefer KDB long term, but it is worth making the move this week. So yeah, that would be the free transfer that I'd recommend. If you were to take a hit, then you could consider something else, but you don't need to necessarily get rid of anyone in particular. But maybe Nico Williams or Emerson, you could move on to, let's say, for example, Kilman or Anderson. People sell Maddison and KDB. I would sell Maddison. I mean, to be honest, look, if you've got KDB and then 3 other Arsenal City players, I would sell KDB. Otherwise, I would be happy to keep him. But I'd probably sell both at this point. I agree with Legendary. Jesus for Mitrovic, Game Week 13. Yes, I mean, that's not a bad idea, but I would rather have Mitrovic at this point in time. Let's see how things change by then. Thank you very much, Singh. So yeah, we have over 250 people watching. And we are trying to get this stream to 150 likes and potentially up to 200. So if you haven't already, then be sure to do so. We can get to 200 likes and also get closer to 16,000 subscribers. And I think we can do that by maybe by November, because like I said, there will be kind of a mini break for me next week. But we will be back and running, and I'm still going to try to get some videos for you. But in terms of streams, it will be very difficult, like I said earlier. Chances of Newcastle keeping a clean sheet against Everton, I wouldn't say it's high, but they're one of the most likely. So I'd say out of all the teams in Game Week 12, if we look at the fixtures here, so Game Week 12, I would say Brighton have a good chance. I would also look at Chelsea and then Newcastle, and that's about it really. Obviously, there could always be a surprise clean sheet like Leicester this week. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Crystal Palace Wolves ended 0-0. But really, when I'm looking at clean sheets, I'd say Brighton, Newcastle and Chelsea are the most likely in Game Week 12, especially Brighton and Newcastle on paper. So that's kind of my opinion on it. Let me know if you disagree. Foden or Saka. Sí, en mi opinión, José, los dos son muy buenos, pero en mi opinión yo pondría a Foden. Y en mi equipo yo estoy buscando los dos en la jornada 13 o 14. Is Tony the downgraded Drogba? I wouldn't go that far, but Tony's penalty taken is impeccable, and his all-round play, his hold-up play, his link-up is very, very impressive as well. But he can be frustrating, especially when Brentford play a back three and obviously 2 up front with Mbeumo, but he still is capable of returns regardless. I have 10 players playing, including Emerson. Should I replace KDB with Salah? I would do that, Nick, yes. As much as I like KDB and I think he's better than Salah this season, I would do it. How about Robertson for James? For a 1-week punt, I don't mind it, and maybe Robertson could become a good option once again, but he's one I'd like to have on a free hit, nothing else at the moment. Is Maddison to Trossard worth a -4 if I'm getting Saka Game Week 13? I believe so. Obviously, it all comes down to what Trossard does in Game Week 12. It might pay off, it might not, but I think it's worth the risk. A few players you love to watch but don't score well in FPL? Great question. I mean, typically it is Firmino, but he's doing really well this season, so really good question. I would say Bernardo Silva. Although, once again, not too shabby in FPL this season so far. Another one that I love to watch, that's a great question. I'm going to check the points quickly just so I can refresh my memory of who's actually getting points this season. Really good question there. I think, can I say Diaz? Because he's decent in FPL, but I think he's, like, he doesn't really, his performances, or should I say his points don't do his performances justice in a way. Really good question. I have to think about it, really. I'm looking down the list and I'm really struggling. I think Grealish is actually up there. Grealish is up there. He's playing really well this season, but if you look at him in FPL, only 10 points, in one game, and then the rest are blanks. So yeah, I think Grealish is right up there. Wow, that's a fabulous question. So if I had to say a few players, it would be Bernardo Silva, Grealish, and I think I might be forgetting somebody. Odegaard, maybe. Once again, not too shabby so far, but not that many points. He's got 40, but doesn't do him justice, I think. So that would be my top 3. Maybe that's not a great list because they're actually getting some points. Thoughts on Almiron for Billing long term? I do prefer Almiron, but there's not much to separate them so far this season. And to be honest, I think Billing has better long-term fixtures. But yeah, would I get rid of Almiron for Billing? No. Would I get rid of Billing for Almiron? Potentially, although it's not necessary. Maddison to Trossard, James to Dyer, and Emerson, West Ham to a 5-point family and defender for a -8. Worth it? Not in my opinion, because you're taking hits. You're taking a -8 for 2 defenders. I would kind of strip that down to a -4 and just keep Emerson, I think, and just do James to Dyer potentially, or go to another defender who has a better chance of a clean sheet and points in Game Week 12. Saka over Jesus from Game Week 13 because Jesus' one yellow card away from suspension. Yes, and not only that, Saka is also on penalties. He's probably going to score more points this season, which was my prediction going into the season. Thank you, Andrija. It's not a bad overall rank. Obviously, it can be better, and I do expect a bit of a drop tomorrow. Trippier or Zaha for Game Week 12? Trippier. Maddison to Trossard in Game Week 12, and Trossard to Bowen in Game Week 13, or Maddison to Bowen now to avoid extra transfer. Great question. I would, if you can, and you're not too adverse to it, I would get Trossard and then Bowen, personally. Normally, I would rather just go for the transfer that saves the booking in of transfers, and you kind of save it further down the line. But I would do that instead and get Trossard and really play the fixture this week. Sterling and one Brighton defender or two Brighton defenders on a free hit. I would probably go for Sterling and a Brighton defender. I think Solanke and Billing is a really good pick for 12, facing a weak Southampton side. Yeah, plus their performance versus Fulham today, and Bournemouth are a beast at home. And Bournemouth are unbeaten against non-top 6 opposition. They're 6th in the table, so they aren't necessarily the whipping boys of the league. And this is something we talked about even a few weeks ago. Obviously the 9-0 against Liverpool changed our perceptions about them. We all thought target Bournemouth every week, but it hasn't been the case. Should I have 3 Arsenal players after Game Week 12? I think 2's fine, but I wouldn't mind 3. Obviously, there will be some weeks where they face Chelsea, where you would probably bench 1 or 2 of them. But honestly, I like 2 or 3 Arsenal players from 13 onwards. I would go for Saka, Safir, over Jesus. Yeah, I agree, legendary. Do you feel pressure to captain Trossard? That's a good question. Honestly, no. The reason why I got in Trossard is because I'm happy to captain him. And without Trossard, who would I captain? Probably Son, away to United. And obviously, we all can cast our minds back to the 6-1. Son got an incredible return when famously he was supposed to be a doubt for the game. But this is a different Son, a different United and Spurs and situation. Gundogan, I'm just not confident enough of him starting games. Worth a pun on Robertson? Yes. Do I like him long term? Not at the moment. Procrastinated away from my uni work for long enough. Thanks for your input, Dylan. Good luck with your uni work, Will, and I hope you do well in your studies. Solid advice as always. Good luck in 12. I have a long way to climb. Yeah, don't worry, Will. I appreciate you tuning in, and I wish you the best of luck for your uni work and also for your FPL results, you could say. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck, mate. Gross or Trossard? I would go for Trossard. Apologies if you discussed it already, but Firmino or Nunez? Nunez has the better underlying numbers per 90, but also a smaller sample size. I think Firmino's consistently be a better option, better player all season. He gets the goals and assists. I would go for Firmino, but Nunez is also very, very close. And I think he arguably gets more minutes, like you said, and also maybe more goals, but that doesn't necessarily mean more points because Firmino also has the assist potential. I think Solanke and Billing, yeah, we covered that as well, legendary, yeah, I agree. I have 10 playing players. Get Martinelli, Foden, or Cancelo out from -4. It would be Foden because he's more expensive than Martinelli. And Martinelli, for me, offers better value. I'd rather have him long term if I had to pick one. And you can always bring Foden back in 13 or 14. Best Liverpool defender to go for? It would be Robertson as a 1-week punt. Konate is an injury doubt. Van Dijk isn't really... he's got a bit of attacking threat with set pieces, but he hasn't really shown it so far. So it would be Robertson if I had to pick one. Would you play Nico or take a hit? I'd probably play Nico. Any Crystal Palace defenders you recommend? Probably Anderson, but Gay's also pretty decent. He got 7 points today. What midfielder would you recommend that's not Arsenal or City? Jared Bowen, like I said. If not, if you want a 1-week punt, it'd be Trossard. Pope or Sanchez for Game Week 12? Pope. But like I talk about in the best free hit team video, it's really close between them. Who do you think starts at right back in the World Cup for England? I think it'll be Trippier. No doubt about it. And even Southgate said it the other day. He thinks Trippier has more to his game all round than Trent at the moment. And also, he's much better defensively, so that will play a big part. Southgate is a very pragmatic manager. It has to be Trippier. And also, if Walker's available, he would be second in line. I think Ben White should go to the World Cup anyway. Great utility player, can play as a centre-back, and I'd probably start him, to be honest. And he can also play as a right-back. But, yeah, Trippier. Doherty to Dunk from -4. I like Dunk a lot. He's the only defender, or a Brighton defender is the only one I would consider taking a hit for this week. But I wouldn't do it for a hit, honestly. It's going well, Singh. Thank you very much for asking. Jota could pull up the Nunez numbers, waste the money, in my opinion. I get what you mean. The thing is with Jota, though, Obviously, he will be quite nailed on now with Diaz being out. But in the long term, when Diaz does return in the second half of the season in particular, I think Jota's the least likely, or the one who's going to get the most, or the most benchings, the most rotations, and the least minutes of the lot. Isn't Walker also a doubt for the World Cup? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. England have quite a lot of those at the moment. And it is a shame. I think Reece James would definitely be the starter. But the thing is, also, England have sometimes done stuff like playing Trippier as the left back and playing, for example, Walker as the right back. Obviously, things are going to change now. It'll be interesting to see how England adapt. But a lot of right backs to choose from. I think it'll be Trippier, basically. Saka or Foden after the break? I prefer Foden, but it's really close. And honestly, I'm looking to bring in both of them. So what I'm looking to do is bring in Foden for Trossard, potentially in 13. And in 14, I will probably do Zaha to Saka. That's what I'm looking to do at the moment. Also, Aston Villa, they have shored things up at the back a little bit. So, their defensive assets look suddenly a little bit better. But I don't like their attackers. I don't like their assets in general. And I think Aston Villa are a very inconsistent and unreliable team. Who plays on the left wing for Liverpool with Diaz injury? I think Jota. So with the 4-2-3-1 formation, I think Jota, Salah right wing, and then Firmino just behind Nunez. Or they could even play both of them up front. Yeah, I agree, Tech. Hopefully Di Maria won't miss the World Cup. I don't think he will. Fingers crossed. And touch wood, as they say. I think he's only missing out 2 weeks. So he has plenty of time to recover for the World Cup. And this will be his last one. So I hope he is available. And same with Dybala and all the other doubts. Hey Dylan lad, I'm thinking Salah and Firmino for Haaland and Son next week. I would probably do that, to be honest. The only thing, once again, make sure you have enough money to bring Haaland back in because you're going to lose value and it could make it difficult. Yeah, Son isn't a good pick for all the money. Also, what do you think? I mean, I just don't like Son at the moment either. And also, when Perisic plays, my confidence in a Son haul goes down dramatically. Who's the better captaincy this week? I would say probably Mitrovic. I don't like captaining a defender or goalkeeper in particular. I definitely wouldn't captain Pope. So it's between Trippier and Mitrovic, and I'd go for Mitra. Is it a bad idea to load up my team with players from round 13 onwards and take a big hit in round 12? Honestly, look, in my opinion, the main priority should be 13 to 16 because you're covering 3 to 4 game weeks before the World Cup and you're going to be loading your team up with better players from the two best teams at the moment in City and Arsenal. So that is the priority. So don't focus too much on Game Week 12 in my opinion. If you can get 7 to 8 players available, I think that's fine, honestly. If you have any more than that, I'd be laughing, I'd be happy with it, and it's not a big concern. The only reason why I'm considering making another move, because I brought in Trossard for Maddison, is because obviously I have the 2 free transfers available and I'm also trying to find the upside and playing the fixture. So getting in Dunk for Doherty could work in my favour as well. But honestly, 7-8 is fine for this week. And if you have 9 or 10, I definitely wouldn't be playing a free hit or anything like that. Should I give Wilson time or just get Firmino immediately? It's a tough one because Firmino could be benched. There's a lot of games for Liverpool over the next week or so. I'd say give Wilson time. Injuries could hurt, yeah. I mean, the same could be said for any nation. France also are going to be missing Kante, I think, for the World Cup. England could be missing multiple right backs. It can happen to anyone, even Brazil with Neymar, whoever. I hope everyone, all the nations and stuff, go in with their best teams and we can just see who wins it. There's always luck involved with the World Cup, and I'm just hoping, for the best, obviously, with Argentina. But I don't want any, obviously, big injuries as well. You want to see the best players play. Thank you, Destin, for greatness. I appreciate it. Would you do Maddison to a midfielder who I don't really want after Game Week 12 or just bring in Anderson? But then again, I'm guessing Trossard is one of them. You can then move Trossard on potentially to Saka or Foden, so it's not too bad. I would rather go for the upside and get in the midfielder that you really want for 12, maybe not so much afterwards. Yeah, no Kante and Pogba for France. Exactly, a completely different midfield. And even with them, France have been very shaky over the last year or so. Foden or KDB? I'd probably say Foden because of the value, but I like KDB a lot. Yeah, Firmino's a great choice. John, also Nunez. Surely with Jota starting, he surely becomes an option over Nunez. I disagree. I think Nunez, as you rightly pointed out, he's really good for the underlying numbers per 90, the XG, the shots, etc. And also, Jota did get a hat-trick assist the other day, but that is very unsustainable. Look, Jota, I really liked him in FPL last season. The first half, he was incredible. But ever since Diaz signed, and now you've got Nunez as well in the mix, I just don't really like him as an FPL option as much. Is Tomori not considered because of Southgate's back 5? Also because of the faith he has in certain players like Maguire, John Stones, etc. That's really why. He's kind of going for the experience and just not really disrupting the status quo. So yeah, there's kind of a few reasons behind it, and Tomori tends to play in a back four. How many points do you think Pope will rack up this week? Sart is doing really well, and I'm thinking to make a decision. This week against United, maybe 3 or 4. I mean, I'm kind of hoping for some save points and stuff. In terms of against Everton, I'm hoping for a clean sheet, so 6 or 7 is possible. Tompkins to a new defender in Game Week 12, or bring in Saliba and Martinelli in Game Week 13. Have one free transfer, no Arsenal now. Newcastle defender. If the Newcastle defender is Trippier, I would do it. Otherwise, no. And yeah, if that's the case, if you already have Trippier, I would bring in the Arsenal players after. Robertson to James for a long term. Not in my opinion. I need to see more from Robertson and Liverpool defence first before doing it, and they still have a lot of injury doubts. Rings of Power or House of the Dragon? I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I think it's one of the best trilogies, if not the best of all time in film. I haven't seen Rings of Power, but yeah, I mean, based on what I've seen and heard, it has to be House of the Dragon, which I have been watching. I bought in Foden for Maddison this week. I'm just ignoring the blank. I have 9 for it. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's completely fair enough, but once again, obviously he doesn't play, but he's a really good option in the long term. Thank you, Sophia, for the shout out. Free hit Game Week 12. Only if you're down to like 5 or 6 and you are struggling to get to 7 or 8. Honestly, I'd try to save it for later on in the season for a blank or double. Is Supar going to play anytime soon? I believe so. West Ham have a lot of injury doubts anyway, so I'm not a big fan of West Ham defence. Best defender to bring in this week? Probably Dunk for a 1-week punt, or Webster, any Brighton defender really. Is McAllister a good pick for next game week? Yes, he's on penalties as well, but I do prefer Trossard. Thank you, John, as well, and thank you, everyone else. Captain Rashford or Kane? I would go for Kane personally, but I wouldn't be surprised if Rashford hauled against Spurs. I think England could finish second, facing Netherlands in the round of 16. Yeah, it's possible. In my opinion, England will top the group, and I think they will maybe reach the quarterfinals. Lloris or Pope for Game Week 12? I would rather go for Pope. Lloris is facing United. Considering their form is possible, I mean, considering their form, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. The Awakers is a Chrome extension, Sonny, so if you check the link I just put now in the live chat, you'll find it. Do you think Southgate taking Ivan Toney to the World Cup? Yes, but he's not really going to get minutes. He's only going to come on if England need a goal or need to change things tactically. He predominantly will play Kane up front, you know, until he's pretty much burnt out, and I don't think Toney will get much game time. Yeah, I agree though, especially for penalty kicks, he's great, and also he can hold up the ball and offer maybe a bit more mobility than Harry Kane. Thoughts on Joe Gomez, only 4.5 million. He's good for now, but he's a short-term solution, really, not really a long-term one. Swap KDB, Jesus to Salah Mitrovic? Yes, I would. I like KDB and Jesus a lot, but it makes sense in Game Week 12 with them blanking. Maddison to Trossard or Reece James to Dyer, or both, as I have 2 free transfers. I would do Maddison to Trossard, Fionn, and if you have an 11 already, that's fine, just stick with it. If you don't have a full 11, then just do Reece James to Dyer, or another defender of your choosing. Do you think I should free hit? I have 4 Arsenal Man City players plus Maddison suspended. Honestly, I wouldn't free hit. I would just get rid of one of your Arsenal City players, even if it's a midfielder, and you can always bring them back in 13 or 14. And I would also get rid of Maddison. Even if it's for a hit, that's fine. It's not a big deal. First small green arrow in a while, but I'm sure by tomorrow we're back to red. It's possible. We're hoping for the best, and we could hold on potentially. If not Robertson for James, then who for the long term? I'd probably recommend just budget defenders for now. Anderson, Kilman, any other Crystal Palace or Wolves defender potentially, and you can rotate between them. And also, once the blank is cleared, I'd say Ben White, Saliba are the 2 best ones, really. Those 2 and Eric Dyer potentially. So, really, if you're asking me, it's between those lot. Thoughts on Brighton triple for Game Week 12? I'd highly recommend it. You can go for Sanchez, Duncan, Trossard on a free hit or something like that. Just bear in mind, if it's a normal transfer, you're going to have these players in 13 and 14. 20 points on the bench. I feel you. A lot of us are in a similar position as well. Yeah, exactly, Sophia. There's no chance he starts in the World Cup. You think Liverpool assets are good after Game Week 12? Some of them. So Firmino, Salah potentially. Not a big fan of the defence. Trippier will probably be England right wing back. He probably definitely will, in my opinion. Best Maddison replacement for Game Week 12, specifically Trossard. Longer term, I would say Bowen. And of course, Saka and Foden, I would highly recommend in Game Week 13. Maddison replacement, I own Trossard and Zaha. I'd say Bowen. Why does Zerbi sob off his Stupinian as the most promising player? Because Mitoma has been incredible. Maybe not incredible, but he has been very impressive since coming from Brighton. And they do tend to rotate. But now Mitoma is an injured out heading into Game Week 12. Best captaincy options, I think it's Salah, Trossard, Firmino and Harry Kane. Hoping for a Haaland blank. To be honest, I don't really care because it doesn't make a huge difference to me. Everyone's captaining him, it seems. But obviously it would kind of damage those who didn't captain him. So that's what I would gain. Honestly, I don't really care. Let's wait and see. Hello, Dylan. Can you please make a Game Week 12 free hit team? I will cover it tomorrow, Neo. A video is coming out tomorrow, so there's no point covering it now. It will be covered in the video. Be sure to tune in for that. What to do with Maddison? I would sell for most people. If you already have an 11 and you're happy to keep Maddison, then fair enough, but I would sell. Firmino for Mitrovic and Maddison for Trossard, 2 free transfers. I would do Trossard in for Maddison. I would just keep whoever you have of Firmino or Mitrovic. Kilman or Dunk. Long term, it'd be Kilman. 2 for Maddison, Salah or Bowen. I mean, long term, in terms of a structure, I do prefer Bowen, but for Game Week 12, Salah's definitely the better pick on paper. What do you think of 6 Man City Arsenal and then free hit, blank, and good fixtures for Arsenal Man City after blank? Isn't that better? Well, it's kind of too late for that. So if you have 6 Arsenal Man City players already, then you might need to play the free hit anyway. Obviously, for those of you that kind of had these 6 Arsenal City players going into this week, you would have benefited from it, really. You know, these 2 teams are the best in the league at the moment, and they're offering great value in all areas of the pitch. But, you know, that's not too bad. I do prefer playing the free hit later in the season, though. Keep Mitrovic or Tony? I'd rather keep Mitrovic if I had to pick one. Best goalkeeper in the game, there's no standout, but I'd probably say Sarr. Just because the fixtures are quite mixed. He's 5.1 million. He's got a high ceiling. He can save penalties, and he's good for bonus points. But honestly, it could be him. It could be Pope. There's not much to split them. And I'd also point you towards Gaeta and Raya, and also Sanchez. 3 midfielders blanked. How did my rank improve from 44k to 99k? To 44k. The other players you had really made a difference. Maybe you had Tony and a few other players. Lungani, that's a good defence. Honestly, it's a really good defence. You've got Estupinian, who has a good chance of starting and hopefully of getting 60 plus minutes for you. It looks good. Dallow's the only one that I'd be concerned about. Hey, thinking of moving away from Maddison, is Bowen the move? Yes, I'd say so, because the other 2 I'd recommend blank in 12, so there's no point saying it again. Is Trossard the only good captaincy pick? No. You've got Firmino, Salah, Harry Kane. Kane is the most reliable one this season. So for midweek start, Leno or Pickford? I'd rather go for probably Leno, but I don't trust Fulham defence. Should I keep Foden for Game Week 13? Yes. I mean, I like Foden. I'm looking to get him in myself. But if there was any City or Arsenal player I'd get rid of, it would be the likes of Saliba, Foden, Saka, and then I'd bring them back in. Tor smacked you. Soufal and Anderson in for Soufal's the best transfer? I'd say so, mate. I'd probably get Anderson or Gay. Whoever you want. I do prefer Anderson a little bit more. KDB to Salah and Maddison to Trossard, 2 free transfers. Looks great to me, John. Honestly, I'd go for it. Any better 1 week Game Week punts than standard Trossard? I don't think there's anyone better, in my opinion. Otherwise, I would have done it. But if I had to pick someone else as a midfielder, I'd probably say, I mean, would we call Salah a punt, really? Not. I wouldn't go that far. 1 week punt. Jarrod Bowen, he is away to Liverpool, but he would be the other one who I kind of trust a little bit. Trying to think if there's anyone else. Maybe Sterling? Do you think Arsenal will challenge long term? I think Arsenal, they can challenge long term, but I don't think they will. So by February, March, I think City will have already built up a gap. Yeah, but Arsenal could still be maybe within touching distance, maybe in January or something. If they are, they have a chance, of course, but I think City win the league. Trippier versus Everton captain, Game Week 12. I wouldn't captain him personally. It's not a bad shout, but just not for me. Best Maddison replacement for Game Week 12 only, it would be Trossard. Longer term, I would say Jarrod Bowen. Bowen Hall against Liverpool, it's definitely possible. Just bear in mind that most of his goals come at the London Stadium at home. Which 10.7 million midfielder or less for 1 week for Foden? I have Zaha, Trossard. I would probably say Sterling. Sterling's a good one. Rashford's second best punt. I think he can do well against against Spurs, but I just don't think I'd go there. I think there are better options long term. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, by the way. If you haven't already, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's get the stream to over 200 likes, and let's also get to 16,000 subscribers. Let's keep on pushing. Thank you very much to everyone who's already supported the channel. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and you can also check the links in the description below, including the Patreon, the channel memberships, and also the Discord server and FPL League. Be sure to tune in for the FPL Best Free Hit team tomorrow, the Game Week 12, and be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section of that video. And tomorrow, after the games are done, I'll be recording the team selection video. Hopefully that'll be ready for Monday, and then there'll be the deadline stream on the Tuesday, and then I'll try to get some content out for Game Week 13, and I'll keep you guys updated on anything else that needs to be said and done. And there's also hopefully going to be some UCL fantasy content ahead of match day 5, so stay tuned for all of that. I wish you all the best of luck for match day 11, match day 12, and the rest of the season. If you've got any more comments that you want me to answer, leave them in the comment section of this video. I wish you all the best of luck, like I just said, and I'll see you next time.